Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Jet motion they go with here with Baldwin. And Baldwin breaks free. And the Bears, Sikkim, Monterey Baldwin.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Corral pumps. Pressure again, and they get to him. That was Cole Maxwell.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
19-year-old true freshman quarterback stepping in for the injured Matt Corral, and then being brought down. Bryson Jackson with the sack and the turnover on downs.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Good afternoon from different locations around Central Texas. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. And Craig, I guess we should just get the cat out of the bag early on. I think people can figure out why this is happening in 2022. That why you and I are not in studio and Smokey's not here. So everybody's fine. Some people have some symptoms. Some people don't. I've tested negative. Everybody's okay. But we are where we are, and this is what you have to do in 2022 when somebody gets sick at your office.
Yeah, man, we have never truly left the COVID era, even though we kind of got away from, the worst part of it in terms of like the beginning when everybody was like, oh my God, don't go anywhere. Don't, touch anything. Don't, like that whole beginning period, we kind of managed that okay and got to a place where we were able to go out and about. But, obviously lately there's been another wave, no matter what anybody's opinion on it is. And we just got done traveling a bunch. And, there's some people among us who got back in the last 24, 48 hours and weren't feeling so hot. And so we were having to take a temporary pause in the studios. I'm feeling okay. I think I'm fine as of right now, but, and I've had it before months and months and months ago. And for those that are out there, many of them didn't join us till months later, but we had to kind of do this already a year ago this time. In some ways, we had to go remote for a while. So, it's the Omicron version of the shows in 2022, I guess, or whatever you want to call it potentially. But we're having to be cautious. So here we are remotely today for at least this show and probably, a couple more at least, I would think.
Yeah, probably back in the studio on Monday. That gives us our little window of 5 days. And, it's good. I had to go get double Q-tipped today, Craig, in the quick one that they really, for that antigen test, they like to dig around back there like a 3-year-old with a booger. It was strange. It was very strange. But I'm fine. I tested negative, but I'll just say this, someone who lives in this domicile did not kick back the same kind of test. So
yeah, so you got a household to deal with. I've read stories about the having to stay on the opposite sides of the house or whatever you're gonna have to end up doing. But yeah, it's part of the deal. And after like this past trip to New Orleans, this was my first time traveling plane wise and stuff in a while, and I wasn't sitting there like worried about the travel because of COVID or anything like that. I mean, I just knew that was part of the deal. I was just more or less I hate I hate that whole airport process, especially now. So I really wasn't worried about that. But the whole time I was on that plane or in that airport, I was going like, I don't know how they think they're ever going to like stop any of this. If there's just people how do you, how do you do it? So I'm not surprised after all that travel and being around that many people that's the case. I'm really not.
Yeah, no, it is what it is, and you just have to kind of to deal with it now, and that's what we're learning to do as a country is learning to deal with it. So, here just in the chat room, we got a lot of get better, and thank you and appreciate it, all of you who are watching and listening today. However you are, we've still got a standard show for you guys. 3:45 p.m. Van McElroy joins us, former Baylor and Raiders defensive back. I know he played a long time ago, but he still wasn't big enough to play defensive end in any era, but one of the greats at Baylor, a fantastic sports agent for a long time, and he joins us today at 3:45. At 4:30, Pat Nunley talks Baylor basketball last night. Craig, I don't know if you saw the play that Matthew Meyer made at the end of the game last night. And one of the things I want to talk about is this Baylor team lets it get a little dicier than last year's does at the end of games, but they still don't know how to finish, and that was kind of the dagger. Matthew Meyer, a steal, just kind of out of nowhere, and then a bucket on the fast break, and really impressive play. We'll talk to him about that. At 5 o'clock, Mike Scarborough from Tiger Bait, our old friend, joins us to talk about how LSU got through that Texas Bowl last night. And at 5:30, John Machoda of The Athletic. Craig, your thoughts on the Texas Bowl last night that saw 39 healthy LSU players and about 8 coaches maybe, and most of them were analysts.
Yeah, at the end of the show yesterday, I ran down that last tweet that I, from whatever college, if it's Feldman or whoever, and I was mentioning just how bad off they were. And yeah, I mean, that was clear. Kansas State sure didn't act like it, though. Kansas State had no sympathy. They got into that game and they were acting like it was LSU 2018, like they were going to go toe-to-toe with and beat up on. And like you had near fights. And I'm like, LSU can't get into a fight because they might not have anybody left. But yeah, they were obviously very shorthanded. And K-State, when you get up, it's kind of like I was telling somebody about, the Baylor women's basketball team is they're obviously a little bit down right now. They're dealing with COVID, and I just saw actually, Paul, where their Texas game has now been postponed. They already had, what was the game coming up postponed?
TCU.
TCU. Now they just announced that Texas this weekend's postponed. So the Baylor women are dealing with that right now. But yeah, when you're a little bit down and you've been good and people get their crack at you, they're going to want to take their shot. And I kind of felt that's how K-State was last night, that even if LSU had been fully healthy, K-State still wanted to take their shot. But the fact that LSU was also a little bit down, KSU really did take their shot and beat up on the Tigers. And, there was a lot of animosity in that game. You would have thought that it was just a normal bowl game from that standpoint of, SEC versus Big 12. But hey, hats off to the LSU guys who tried to get through that one. I mean, less than 40 scholarship guys. That's less than half, well over less than half of your typical roster. So no surprise, K-State wins that game. Deuce Vaughn's great. He's a fun player to watch. But yeah, LSU's got to get that roster cleaned up and get that Brian Kelly era started off, in a much better way than they ended this transitional era, what have you, with last night's Texas Bowl.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we can talk to Mike Scarborough about is what's coming up with the roster and how they're going to jump into the transfer portal, because they will, everybody does. But who does LSU get involved with? What do they really want to do? They've got quarterback questions too. Look, Garrett Nussmeier, who's on their roster, was one of the highest recruited quarterbacks in the country. You would figure he's the future, but Miles Brennan's coming back. So curious things about LSU that we'll talk about today. Want to get a little bit of Caleb Williams as well, but really, nothing new on him, and he's on vacation. We've heard that nothing's going to happen until after he's back from vacation. But an interesting development as we move towards the college football playoff, Craig. The expansion committee meeting, Ross Dellinger, tried to get him on the show today, too busy, wrote a column about how the expansion for the playoff less likely until 2026. And right now what we're dealing with is there are two conferences, really, the Big Ten and the ACC, that feel that there are several issues that they're not going to get past, meaning that this probably doesn't happen until 2026. And I know the pros and cons of that are, there's some pros. It seems probably like all cons of the playoffs not going to expand for another 4 years. But when you think about the pros of it, well, I would rather them take the time and get it right so that at least out of the gate it'll be more successful than some of this other stuff has been. But cons being, come on, guys. And what are we nitpicking about at this point? Automatic bids or 8 and 12 when you've had a committee that's done all this, and Jim Phillips from the ACC is really the massive holdout, and just get it done for the fans. Bob Bowlesby said it in the column in that they are really, there's fatigue. People know that they're losing viewers because people are tired of seeing the same teams. Is it going to change it all that much at the beginning? Probably not, but you can't change it until you give more people opportunity, and that's the simplest thing. Look, is it going to be bad at first? Will there be some pock marks? Will there be some zits you got to pop? Yes, there are going to be some things that aren't going to be good, but ultimately it can't be better if you don't even try to change.
Yeah, I think this sport has seen what happens when you don't try to do anything. They're dealing with that right now. All of the stuff they didn't try to do and just kind of left to be decided by others. Obviously a playoff decision is not going to be decided by anybody but the people in power in college football. Although, TV network executives could obviously hold a lot of say. But yeah, it's frustrating that we keep hearing about. I think I'm more frustrated just the fact that they keep talking and keep walking away with nothing than the fact that they walk away with nothing today. I'm not surprised that we don't have, already before the season's even really over with, before a national championship game's been played. I'm not surprised we're not hearing about an already approved new playoff format, but I am getting awfully sick and tired of just hearing about pointless meetings, really. So, just another, hey, just not yet. That's fine. I think there needs to be some serious looks in the mirror, and you say that they know and they see and they realize what's going on, and kind of the fatigue maybe that's setting in for some, or just the lack of parity or whatever. But I don't know, man. I don't know what the solution is. I'm all for expansion. I'm not for Mike Leach's March Madness style 64-team playoff. I am not for even like a 16-team playoff, but I am for, some middle ground. I'm definitely more in line with having more than 4 than just having the 4 that we have now, because I do think even if it was 2 or 3 extra blowouts, it's at least interesting to see some other teams. Like, I don't want to see the same 4 teams every year. That's what was kind of refreshing about having Cincinnati in there, is it's a brand new team. And yeah, the result might have been the same, but it's no different than watching Notre Dame get their ass kicked every year, right? It's no different than watching OU get their ass kicked every other year, or whoever else, has regularly been in there and does pretty much the same thing against Alabama or Ohio State or whatever. So Yeah, not surprised. It's going to be really interesting to see kind of where they end up ultimately on this thing. It's a conversation that's not going to die. So, nothing right now, but I'm sure people got a lot of opinions on what should happen, and I would love to hear them.
I think that when it comes to it, there's a couple things. Like, yeah, the change is going to be incremental. You're probably with a 12-team playoff going to see pretty much exactly what we saw with a 14 playoff for a couple of years, because the teams at the top are still going to be at the top. But the fact that you're opening it up, there'll be some opportunity sometimes where, and look, part of what's the transfer portal about? The transfer portal is about playing time and opportunity. Well, guys are leaving and going because they don't have an opportunity to do certain things. If you have the opportunity, then that at least gives, some light to the fact that maybe the teams won't hoard all these certain players, but it's still going to happen for the most part, but at least they'll give it a chance to get better. The second thing is that it's just kind of like everything else in life. You can have the majority of people want something, but if the people that are holdouts are powerful enough, whether it's the NCAA or Congress or the Senate or whatever, you cannot get done what you want to get done, and it's just going to take some artful negotiation to even get anything through. I wonder, particularly with Jim Phillips at this point, with what is he going to vote for? I don't know if he knows what he's going to vote for. So what's he going to vote for? So maybe put that out on the table, and then let's start there and maybe meet in the middle, because I don't know if he's holding out because he's, I don't know what the holdout is. If it automatic bids for the Power Five, well, when is that ever not going to happen in a 12-team playoff? Like, what scenario is he worried about that the conference won't get an automatic bid in that? At least one team from the conference is going to, the champion's going to be 7-5. I mean,
maybe he thinks that.
I mean, I guess. I mean, does he have nightmare scenarios? Maybe, but
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think it's strange that commissioners would be so hesitant. I think he'd be doing everything. I mean, I guess the automatic bid thing, you just want to guarantee, but I know what you mean. Like, when would the ACC be left out if there's an expanded field? Like Clemson or Miami or Florida State or whoever you want to name, the champion of that conference isn't going to get in. Like, maybe in a random year, if Wake Forest won it and they had been 8-4 or something, I guess. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm curious. And, there's always so many other motivations behind the scenes that we have no idea about as well. But, I would love to see Jim Phillips' reasoning for why he thinks the way that he does in regards to the playoff. I think, Bob Bowlesby seems to be gung-ho on moving forward. I think a lot of people seem to be gung-ho on moving forward. But for those who are hesitant, I would like to learn more about why exactly that is. What are you worried about? What are you afraid of? Because to me, I just don't see where there's the only negative that I hear from people on an expanded playoff is it would water it down, or there would be more blowouts. And I'm like, okay, so there would be a couple of extra games that you can choose to watch or to not watch, and that would really be the only difference. That's why we're worried about there might be a couple of extra blowouts. So that's where it's just throwing it all off the table and staying with what we have now, which is just 2 for sure blowouts almost every year at this point. The ratings are down for the playoff, and that might be down for all bowl games in general across the board. I don't really know. I haven't tracked it that closely, but I can tell you I was about as interested as I could hope to be, and tried to get myself even more interested, but it didn't help when after, one bowl game's over with, I'm already hearing playoff all the time. I think we get tired with the playoff, and then we only hear about just 4 teams, and really we only hear about 2 or 3 of those 4 teams mostly. And, now we're going to get beat over the head for the next 9 days with 2 teams in particular, and all this buildup that started as soon as the last whistle was blown last weekend. So, yeah, I don't know, man. They got to figure something out, because this isn't a COVID issue that's harming the sport, or, an NIL issue that's harming the sport, although you can kind of probably point to where NIL comes into play in some issues with college football, but not this. I mean, although you can talk about the playoff and how it would keep guys around to play in bowl games if there was an expanded version, for some of these other teams that are pretty good. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I want to get more guys on the record and see exactly what their deal is on why they're fearful of it, because, I think the current model works. Okay, works fine. It's better than the BCS, I suppose, but I definitely think it could be better. I wish they'd figure out how, because, again, this is the only sport, and it's such a great sport, but it's the only sport in this country that can't figure out the way to properly do a postseason. It's unbelievable. They cannot figure it out, Paul. They don't know how. They had a championship. It's like, hey, here's the two best teams, but they could never do. And look, it's not like just simply records. So that's the hard part, and that's what's unique about it. Is there's not a 64-team tournament. There's not, a set record. You're 8-7. You advance. There's not just that. So maybe they need something like maybe they need some more structure to it, but they cannot figure it out to save their life. That's for sure.
No, they absolutely can. And I got a couple of comments on the text line, 254-339-1122. Until we're back in studio, we will not be able to take calls because of the Craig and I won't be able to hear it because of the way that we have to deliver it. It'll be remote. So we can't take calls. So please hit us up on the chat or the text, 254-339-1122. And every other sport also, if you look, professional, college, everything has found a way to make grow their playoffs. The NFL, which didn't even really need to, did it, right? Or changed it, tweaked it, grew their season. The NBA's finding ways to tweak and expand their playoffs and have a play-in game. Major League Baseball expanded their playoffs, and Major League Baseball expanding the playoffs has in no way made it worse. It's made it better because now, Craig, back in the 90s and the early 2000s, when the trade deadline came around, if you were 6 games out of first place, you just dumped your roster into the Yankees. That's what people did, and now they don't. So but college football for some reason looks at this and goes, yeah, we can't do it here because we're different. And everybody's different, but
I mean, it is different though, because you don't have like a manager type for every division in the NFL running over, there's not like an NFC East commissioner who's only got their best interest in mind and an NFC South commissioner who's only got, and that's what college football is dealing with. They're dealing with a lot more politics and a lot more personal agendas, and not everybody's under the shield of the NFL. They're under their conference shield, and I think we saw that with the whole expansion thing over the summer. That was a selfish move, and hey, it's a shrewd business move, but it was brilliant ultimately by Greg Sankey and OU and Texas to bring them into the fold. But the NFC East wouldn't go and just grab the Bengals from the AFC South behind the cover of darkness or whatever. So there's a lot of differences, and it's human votes on who's the best. In the NFL, it's the records. The records tell you who the best teams are. In the NBA, the records tell you who the best teams are. In college football, you can't do it exactly that way. So that does make it a bit more complicated, and that leaves it to where, you have these arguments of like, well, SEC's got 7 teams that could beat the top team in the big. And okay, whatever. We don't know, we don't know ultimately, and we have a lot clearer picture in other sports. And there's too many teams in college football to ever really know. And the only way, I guess, to ever really make it simplest would be if there was this massive breakaway and some ultra super college football league that was created. And maybe that was one of the ideas with the OU Texas move originally before that all got blown up. I don't know. Maybe that still is an idea for Greg Sankey in particular or someone along those lines. I don't know. But that'd really be the only way you could do it that cleanly. And that's what makes it more difficult. But, they got to figure out something, man. And whether it's sticking with even what they're doing, let it be known that you're sticking with that and let people know, this is what it is and this is what it's going to be. And you're either going to like it or you're not. But this is our playoff, and not this every year. Well, maybe next year we'll do, and maybe we'll do, it's just always a lot of maybes hanging in the air. Just give us the meat, and give us what we want. And, let's get down to business and stop fooling around with all this maybe stuff.
Yeah. All right, let's go to 3-2-1. Here's what his suggestion is. All Power 5 D1 conference champs should be in. It's the most fair thing. Highest ranked, second place, P5. Highest ranked independent and highest ranked G5. Covers all bases, makes the most sense on many levels. Okay, I like that one. And the watering down idea doesn't fly because, it would have that many more fans interested. You have additional fans for programs. It's right on the cusp of cracking into the summer mass of cities and TV markets. Yeah, I agree with that. And let's see. Josh in Washington just sent this text in. Too many chefs. Sounds like politics. 8 or 12 teams would only benefit. And that's the thing.
For sure.
There's too many cooks in the kitchen. There's always going to be too many cooks in the kitchen until there's a czar, a commissioner, or whatever. And I do think in the new governance, I think one of the things that they would be wise to do and probably will do, and I really do think this, is that they will say, look, you have to separate out football and men's basketball or at least football and basketball. You can have men and women's, the same way, right? And in the same thing, because you have to have that equity, but or equality in there. But I do think that you've got to separate those things out and treat them differently because they are different. Like you cannot be legislating football the same way you do softball. Like there's so many different things that are different inherently in that. So moving it out and separating it, I think would be good. And I think it's what they ultimately will do, because I think it's the smartest thing to do is to have football and have a football commissioner. And then that person can, look, the commissioner is the head of college football, and the conference commissioners answer him much like owners do.
Well, the issue there is going to be, how do you settle on a guy?
Yeah.
Who's going to, you probably have the Big Ten. Well, we think Barry Alvarez would be a great, college football commissioner. And then the Big 12 is like, we think Bob Stoops would be a great college football commissioner. And I'm sure, the Pac-12 thinks this guy. And you said the P word, politics. There is no sport that has more of that involved than college football. And it's kind of funny, I'm a college football fan because there's nothing I hate more than politics. And yet it is the most politic-driven sport that there is. And part of that, again, is the uniqueness of the fact that it's not some league and some 30-team, grouping. It's 100-plus teams from literally all over the country, not just 32 metropolitan areas. It is personalities and people of all walks of life, ages, backgrounds, everything, experiences. It's unique. It's unique, and it's different, and it's not as easily tied up with a bow like an NFL or MLB or your pro sports leagues are. But I do think, and I've been advocating for a long time as well, that there does need to be some type of a figurehead, a commissioner of sorts. Now, be careful, because I don't think Roger Goodell's the greatest. I really don't. And I think Rob Manfred absolutely sucks. I think he is an awful commissioner. And I have never been less interested in baseball than during the Rob Manfred era so far. He sucks. He's terrible, and he's going to kill baseball worse than others have in a lot longer time period, in my opinion. So having a commissioner can be, something that backfires on you. It might be good for the quote-unquote owners, or in this case, the school ADs and presidents and whatnot, but for the fans, it can backfire. So, if it was like a Joe Klatt or a Tim Brando or, like a Bob Stoops. Like Bob Stoops would be better of all the people I mentioned, but I'd be cool with that. But I would also be very wary of like the other guy that gets picked, like the Rob Manfred, that, how's he going to screw up college football,
Yeah, look, I never liked Bud Selig, but, 6 months into Manfred, I'm like, at least I knew Bud was good at this. Bud knew Bud knew how to talk to the owners and tell them, hey, do you guys want to have a season? Do you want to have this? Then this is what we're going to have to do. So he knew how to tell them what concessions to make and to move things along, is where Rob Manfred just is. I don't know what he does. Like, sometimes you wonder what do you sit in your office and do? Like, what is that you do all day? Like when you're in these meetings and people tell you these things and then you do the opposite, how did you learn to do that? Like what's going on there? So that I feel the same way. And you have to make sure it's good. And I also, hope it's not something that's like, that's the thing I have with Roger Goodell. I don't have so much of a problem with Roger Goodell in the fact he's just been in power so long. Mm-hmm. I'm a guy who's for term limits in almost all walks of life, so the commissioner has term limits, put a guy in, he's there for, let's just say 12 to 16 years, and then you move on. You don't have a guy there for 25 years who can get kind of stuck in his ways. All right, we'll take a break right here. We'll come back. We'll talk about more of this. We'll take more of your text and chat. 254-339-1122. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, broadcasting remotely today because it's 2022 and things happen, and this is how we have to do things. But we'll be back in studio next week, so don't worry, everything's fine. It's just kind of how you have to live life in the 2022. This is SicEm 365 Radio, SicEm 365 and 365 Sports.
This month, it's all about the championship drive as our hometown team celebrates the Big 12 championship and a Sugar Bowl win. So can you in your new vehicle from Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Waco. During the Start Something New sales event, shop for power, performance, and reliability from our selection of the new 2021 Ram 1500 Lone Star. Are you planning your next adventure? Choose from a range of Jeep models, including the 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Take home the trophy from Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
Welcome back in, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. If you're just joining us here, you kind of can figure out what's going on. Smoak's still under the weather. We've all, we're doing the show remotely for the rest of the week because this is 2022, and this is what our life now. This is what we do. This is how things work, unfortunately. But we're talking college football playoff expansion in the last segment, some other things going on. And look, it's probably going to be 2026. I will say this, Craig. If they're going to wait till 2026, the good news is that by then we'll have an idea of what the conferences are really going to look like, save some other things. But the major moves will have been made. The teams will have been playing each other. We'll kind of know what's going on in that regard. The governance will be in place, and maybe some of this bickering will kind of smooth itself out when everybody knows what's going to happen. And like one thing I do maybe agree with, and I think this is the Kevin Warren, the Big Ten commissioner, has said that why not wait until the governance is at least worked out, so that way you know how to navigate some of these other things.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that. I'm all just for them figuring it out. If it's not going to happen this year, that's fine. Like that's fine. I'm not one of those that's like, just do something to do it. Even though it probably sounds that way, I just get frustrated with all of the politics that goes on. I hate politics. Like I know you're a fan. People enjoy it, but I've never ever in my life enjoyed politics. And so I know there's a lot of that going on, and that's kind of like what I was saying in the last segment. Is college football has a far more unique structure than any sports league. There's not just that main guy at the top that has all say, and 32 owners who are all in it together. It's a bunch of league commissioners who all in it for themselves and for their teams. And so it's a bit more complicated. So, yeah, if it takes some time to figure out, great. But what I don't want to hear is kind of like with name, image, likeness, or with so many other issues is, yeah, we need to keep talking about it. Yeah, we're just going to keep talking about it. We're just going to keep talking about it. And then we get to the point of where it's like, okay, we need a decision. It's like all they've done is talk and nothing's been decided, because we've seen that happen over and over again with certain things. So, yeah, I think it's probably, big picture, smart to get a lot of other things figured out before, just going full bore into something. And certainly in college football right now, there are a lot of things that need to be figured out. Name, image, likeness among them, and various other issues as well. So, yeah, a lot on their plate, a lot to get sorted through, and the college football playoff is one of them, but it doesn't have to be decided right now, no.
No, it doesn't, and there are things to work out. And look, I'll correct it. I enjoy following politics. I was a big fan when I was younger, but it's like one of those. It's kind of like you in wrestling now, where what I used to like watching and following just makes me sick. Like, yeah,
I know, man. It makes me sad. Like I loved it so much, and like these days, I just. Man, it's just, I don't know. Too much of a lot of the same stuff, actually. Too much just bickering and too much, ugliness and stuff like that. I can't adequately explain it if you don't see the toxicity of that community, but it has certainly pushed me away, unfortunately, a great deal here over the last year, really, but a few months in particular. But yeah, you enjoyed it. I get the enjoyment of following along with it, but following along these days is just like a fool's errand. I mean, it's just insane.
Well, it would be like watching and trying to enjoy politics now like I did when I was a kid. It's kind of like watching the NBA in the era right after Michael Jordan, before Kobe got good. Well, I mean, he was good, but before Kobe got great, where you're like, well, what game am I? Is Steve Francis the best we can do here for the game I'm going to watch tonight? That's kind of how I feel about it. I mean, it's just one of those things. Like, I don't know who, like, it's more, and then you just watch people say dumb things over and over again. I think, and this is true in all walks of life, we have so many more methods of communication now. People feel like they should say more when they don't need to. Like, just say less. Like, say less. Do less, say less.
I'm all about that. Sport. Yeah, I'm all about that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss, a lot to get figured out, and a lot of opinions, with different agendas. And so it'll be interesting to see how they kind of navigate through all this. But what we do know is, hey, there's no college football playoff expansion coming. So for those who are, or at least in the immediate future, so those who are rooting for that, in the next couple years or along those lines, that's not going to happen based on what we know today. Looks like we'll be waiting at least 5 years based on, those particular comments you pointed to. And if it takes 5 years, and in those 5 years they're able to figure out some legislation for a lot of the other things that are ailing them and able to kind of clean up what they need to clean up, and we'll have all their ducks in a row, and we'll have a great format that everybody can agree on, then that'll be great. But that's also a long time from now. And there's also, a lot of work that will need to go into that to make sure that happens. But who knows, man? It's kind of becoming one of those things that's just talked about, and then like nothing ever is actually, even happening, really. And that's kind of been the college football playoff expansion conversation now for a while. We've been talking about it, and it's still the same thing that it was, and looks like it'll remain the same thing that it's been. So get used to it. Get used to it for right now, at least.
Yeah, at least until 2026. All right. So in the chat room, Timothy Vermeer said he'll try to get a look at the artwork behind me. I'm going to see if he can't see it here. Hold on. There you go. I have some old-timey signs. I can't see myself on camera. So,
I can see you.
There you go. There you go. Some old-timey baseball signs. They've been in my office for quite a long time. So there you go, Timothy. So,
well, for those out there that that weren't following along with us in the early days, I guess it was almost 2 years ago now, which is kind of crazy to say, but when we first started, we didn't have a studio like the beautiful studios we have now, and the room that Paul is in is like a second floor room, and we did the show there, no cameras. We did the show there just on the app or whatever. Not even YouTube, I don't think, right? We just had the app basically, or we streamed off the website.
I think we had a YouTube channel that was just feeding our audio and a graphic. That was all that it was, and so it would be the guest list graphic every day, and we'd just put it up. Yeah,
we just sat in Paul's attic, if you want, or second floor room, whatever, and the room he's in right now, and that's where we did the show for like months and months while the studio was being built, and then we've been in the studio for over a year. But yeah, then we had to do a whole, like, how many weeks did we do this way? Like 4 or 5, like a month maybe, where we were.
Yeah, it was a couple weeks. I mean, we were probably 2 weeks, and then you were probably another 2 after that because Smokey and I didn't get sick.
I got sick. But
and you got sick, so.
We're used to this. It's just been a while, and, hopefully we don't have to do it this way for too long, but we've definitely done it this way and have been, we've had experience with this, to say the least. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's not our first rodeo. All right, we'll take a break right here. When we come back, Van McElroy, former Baylor defensive back, longtime NFL agent. He's got opinions on a lot of things, but we'll get him his opinion on the Baylor team now, where they stand as an athletic department, some his thoughts on the Raiders and moving to Vegas and all that. That's coming up. Van McElroy, former Baylor and Raiders defensive back and longtime NFL agent. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months, and it's a happy experience. It's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
Still working on the great Van McElroy right now. And we'll get him on as soon as we do. By the way, Timothy Vermeer says that Wednesday, July 21st was his first show, which, Craig, I guess that would make that was D-Day, right? Is that college football Big 12 expansion D-Day?
I have not remembered that date exactly, like 9/11 or the day Kennedy was shot, or, like certain days that we remember. It may very well have been. Yeah. I don't remember exactly, but that sounds about right. And who knew that it would lead to what it led to, and all the craziness that's ensued ever since, and so all the discussion and everything else that it's led to. Certainly it was a boon for us. We just happened to be right place, right time, right conference that we were covering to be right in the thick of things, obviously. And, just glad that a lot of people joined us along that ride and have been with us ever since. And Lord knows there's only more craziness to come in college football, as we've been talking about. I mean, it doesn't ever stop, and it only gets, more and more crazy, it seems like, in good ways, too. I mean, not just in negative ways. I think that's one thing, is there's all these changes that are going on, and sometimes it's always painted as so negative, and it doesn't have to end that way or even be that way, and I don't think it always is that way. But, I mean, there are some negatives, certainly, but there's also a lot of things that have made it exciting. I mean, if you're a fan of 4 certain schools in particular, some people may be viewing the Big 12 as, Texas and OU leaving as a bad thing, but it was a great thing for those schools. I mean, it turned out to be a wonderful thing for some of the current Big 12 schools that are sticking around. It may turn out to be the best thing ever after seeming like the worst thing possible. We'll see over time, but yeah, that's about when everything popped off, and little did we know when we walked into AT&T Stadium, and walked out after a couple of days that that bombshell was going to be waiting for us and would change the lives of a lot of people. So, yeah, Timothy, thanks for sticking around, and hopefully around for quite a while.
Yeah. By the way, I've got a headphone hair, so I'm putting the headphones back on in spite of this white noise I'm hearing on my end, Armstrong. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah, I just have to deal with it. But we're joined now by Van McElroy, former Baylor defensive back, longtime Raider, and this is the first person from the Raiders I've talked to since I sat as a fan at the Cowboys-Raiders game and listened to those fans in Arlington, no less, just go Raiders, and know that if you're an opponent, you got to hate it, and if you're a fan of the other team, you're a fan of the Raiders, you're going to love it. If you're a Raider, you got to love it. Van, thanks so much for joining us today. Smokey's out. He's under the weather, but certainly glad to always talk to you. First off, just curious your thoughts on the defensive performance that Dave Aranda pulled off with your Bears on Saturday night in New Orleans.
Well, hello, guys, and thank you for having me on, giving me a shout, and have an opportunity to visit with you guys. To start off with, on the Raider Dallas game, there were also a group of people from Uvalde, Texas, that were there. So they had their Uvalde Coyotes shirts and everything on too. So, okay, to the most important part here, the defense that Baylor has right now is just, in my opinion, outstanding. I think from top to bottom, what I mean by that is your D-line all the way to the secondary. I think they play well together. I think they're aggressive. They do some things up front that are really good, and they have the personnel, as I look at it and see the players, to sort of pull some of those things off. So it is excellent.
Van, to see Dave Aranda and what he did coming in, obviously not the best situation walking into COVID, and the program, I think the players were probably a little bit down after yet another coaching change. They had finally gotten to a point where they were winning games again, and then, all right, here goes now, a coach leaves again. And here comes this really quiet Aranda guy, and then they had this first year where they don't really have an opportunity to get to know him that well. But you see now where having that full offseason certainly helped. He makes some coaching changes, brings in some guys, and just the year overall. I mean, to go from 2 wins in the COVID year to 12 wins, a school record, Sugar Bowl, Big 12 champs. I mean, just an unbelievable run. Your thoughts on just kind of the total package of 2021 for Baylor?
I think he did it, to be quite honest, I'm shocked. I mean, I sat there and watched. Everybody watched what was going on, and then just the difficulties, certainly that were going on at Baylor. Then lose a guy and the players, and just being a smaller school. I mean, and the recruiting and all of those things, and so you sit there and you go through a season, and you're going, okay, where's this headed? And all of a sudden, this happens, and it really is outstanding. It's just awesome, and the idea of this head coach and what he has accomplished, I think, is up there with anyone because of what he got into and how quickly he has really turned this thing around. And I think he's done something, very well from the standpoint of, they did it with defense. Not to say their offense, the running back, the guys can't make some plays. I mean, that's no question they can, but it's not what I would call just an explosive offense where you're throwing the ball everywhere, where you just, it's Air Coryell type of stuff going on. It is straight at you. They do a few little things, but you can they sort of tell you, listen, this is what we're kind of do, and you have to stop it type thing on offense. But on defense, at D-line, the pressure they put on the quarterback, I wish I would have had a chance to be around Woods a little bit, get my hands on him a couple of years. I think the guy should have had 8 to 10 interceptions. I really do. He has that kind of talent. But no, I think that's what he did. That was probably the smartest part of this whole deal. Is said, you know what, I got to get my defense together. If I get that done, I have players and athletes on the offense. We'll make it work. And I think he did a great job with that.
You mentioned JT Woods. I was just about to ask you about him. If I had to put the player that would jump out at me as the one Van McElroy would probably identify with, it would be JT Woods, a guy who can catch the ball in the secondary and who's not afraid to lower that shoulder. What do you think his NFL prospects are as far as, I'm sure he's an NFL player, but where do you think he fits in draft-wise and career-wise?
We'll see. I think, size, we'll see what he runs. And both those things kind of go together. Obviously, if his speed can be what it needs to be for the draft. And I say the draft because once it's over, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you still have to run, and he can run. But we'll see. Whatever that 40 times is going to be, it's going to be. But I think that, what he does have with his athleticism that a lot of guys don't have, especially sometimes you find your speed guys. I mean, I played against the greatest, Willie Galtz of the world. I can go down the list of all the speed guys that are out there. They tend to be a little stiff, and they and they're not super instinctive. But this guy is really instinctive, and I've just watched him, and that's what I was saying from my own perspective. I think there are some things that he can do that will really kick his instincts in even more to where, as good as he is at finding the ball, his angles to go to the ball, and I'm using words, guys, that people don't really understand. They may think they do, but they don't. Those things were outstanding when I watched this guy.
Yeah, JT's he's a tremendous player, and I'm very excited. I know he's playing in one of the All-Star games. I forget which one off the top of my head, but he's going to have that opportunity as well. What do you think it means in terms of the Big 12 with the whole Texas and Oklahoma news over the summer? I'm not sure what your thoughts were on that time. Were at that time, but to see Baylor go out and win 12 games, to see Oklahoma State go out, they win 12 games. I mean, Oklahoma, they're still in the Big 12. They finished on a high note despite their whole coaching situation there with Lincoln Riley towards the end. K-State gets a win last night. I mean, the Big 12, in the face of a very uncertain summer just a few months ago, how do you think the conference kind of followed that up with this following season, and what do you think the prospects are moving forward for the Big 12?
I think they're great. I really do. I think they have the players. They have, and you really look at it, and you look at these coaches, and they may not just name-wise, just really blow people over, but these are good coaches. I mean, they really, really are, and they bring something special to that college and to those group of guys. Certainly with Randa here at Baylor, but the other colleges the same way. And it's in K-State is one of those places that has always had players. Even when I owned my agency, and we'd go to K-State because no one wanted to go in there. It's hard to get to. So we would go because there were always players. I mean, Jordy Nelson, I can go down the list of guys that came out of there. They're just great players. But that program seemingly has a way of getting those players in there that can play well, and then they coach them up and do extremely well. So those teams, I think, are great teams to have in the Big 12. I think they proved the point this year. Baylor obviously doing what it did for the being what was their ranking? What have they ended up? Have they come out with that yet, or?
No, that'll come out after the national title game, but I'm thinking they're going to be top 5 for the first time ever in the final poll.
I would think so. I mean, think about that. Here's a team that could barely win or find itself a year ago, and now it's top 5. Plus, what does that do for Randa's recruiting class? I mean, it just, all those things are so beneficial to he and his coaches and what they're trying to accomplish. And so I just see nothing but great things for the Big 12. I see nothing but great things for Baylor going ahead. And, I think what they've established on defense, and we certainly did. And I look at our defense that we had, back in the day, the D-line of Charles Benson, Joe Campbell, Henry Mellentree, Max McGarry, Tommy Tabor. I mean, those guys, we had obviously Singletary in the middle, Doak Fields and Lester Ward. And then in the back, it was just an unbelievable secondary back there with the guys we had. And so I just think that they have got 11 guys on the field. Obviously, they have others that can come in, but they've got people out there in those most important positions that I think they continue to win, even if the offense struggles at times. I really do.
You say Mike Singletary, and I think of you and Mike Singletary in the same defense and the way that you guys hit so hard. There's probably about a 12-yard zone of every single play that if I was running a slant or a post, I would not want to be in. Just not worth it to me in my ribs.
It shouldn't be, and that is the whole point of it. I know for me, and Mike and I talked a little bit about it. Just the film of what you might want to see the opposing team there are times I might sacrifice a late hit to get a flag just to let the guys watching the film see that you're a little off, things aren't just completely straight with that guy back there. And so that was all fine with me. But when you establish, the rule of that, and they're hard because from a safety's perspective, if you're going to suck down on that quick slant, you've got to be very, very clear that's where the guy is going to throw the ball, or else you're going to have the backside run a deep post, and then you're in trouble. So all those things come together. I'm not going to kill y'all on just reading and understanding that, but the bottom line is, the idea of hitting these guys when they come in the middle certainly plays well for teams that are watching that. Those guys see that, they realize it, and there are guys that I've watched where they're coming in and the ball's right to them, and they just drop it because they think they're going to get crushed. So yeah, man, and Mike, obviously, Mike, Mike is Mike. I wasn't scared of him, and I was on his team.
Yeah, you got to send them. You got to send a little warning shot, and then they're a little bit more hesitant after that. There's no doubt about that. Ben, I know that there's other things we'll probably like Raiders and stuff that we'll get to, but one more thing about Baylor football. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but just Dave Aranda, watching him. Obviously he's not like some big personality. He's a very quiet guy. Was very quiet and reserved, and we only got to really talk to him over Zoom last year. But he definitely opened up and kind of showed more of that personality. And I don't know, he's a very unique guy. Obviously, super intelligent when it comes to the football side of things, but also unique, off the field as well. But just what have been kind of your thoughts from first seeing him as a hire and getting to know about him to now how you've seen him kind of evolve over the last year and a half or so? What have been your impressions on the growth of Dave Aranda as a still young head football coach?
I think there's a couple of things that would stand out to me. First off, he is a quiet man, but within that, I think number one, he has a plan, and I think he understands his plan, and he knows how to implement his plan. And I think that silence in there is just part of that he knows what he's doing. He doesn't have to go blab it to everybody. The other part of it is that in that, the guys have watched him now for a year and a half, and they really, really, really do trust him. That is evident to me as I watch the players. I can go back to Grant Tapp and guys just trusted this guy. And I can tell you, there are coaches around that they're great coaches, but guys don't totally trust them. It's interesting, but it's very clear to me that the players trust this man, and he has a plan. And so when you get both those things going on, everything becomes very clear. And that's the difficult part sometimes when you're coming into a place like Baylor where it's lost coaches, you've had issues, or the young men. And again, these are young guys, they're teenagers, some of them. And so they're coming into something, and they've had parents around, they've had people they can trust. Now they're going somewhere, what's going to happen? And all of a sudden they have this man come in their life, and they feel good about that. And so it allows them, and I know I don't want to not trying to get too deep here because I'm not a real deep guy, but it allows them to play their best game. But when they can trust somebody and they know the plan.
Van, I'm curious your thoughts on name, image, and likeness, coming from the background that you do as not only a college player at one time in your life, but also an agent who, for a long time, you were allowed to come and talk to players on, what their like little agent days or the windows where you can talk to guys as they try to make that decision. And now it's wide open. It's the Wild West with name, image, and likeness, and how you think that student athletes and players should handle that kind of business going forward as they get into it and get those kind of opportunities.
Guys, I will say this, from my perspective, it's complicated, and only time will tell how all that will play out, because the egos become very large in the NFL, and part of that obviously is becomes a very me situation because it's all about money. And in those teams, and matter of fact, we just lost a guy that was just really, really good at this, and that was John Madden, and watching him and how he handled a team, but also my coach, Tom Flores, who I was very fortunate, able to fly up, brought us a bunch of guys up to Canton to see his induction and be with him. And But these men were men that and why I bring in the word trust in a big way, and really had a way of crushing, making sure that ego of the player wasn't involved. But today, the dollars are so large, and my concern is from the college perspective. First off, I agree with it. People have no clue how much time the athlete has to put into this game, and then also go to school. I mean, it is incredibly crazy the hours that go in a day for all of this stuff. It used to be waking up at 6, going to an early morning, workout, whatever it may be, so you could get to school, and then you had afternoon, and it went all day, and then the evening you had, a study hall, and it was just an all-day deal. And when some of these guys bring a claim to the school, because they do, okay, and I get it, I understand both parts. The school is also giving them free education, which is huge. So they don't have to come out of pocket for it. So where does it all end? I guess in my eyes, I don't know where it ends at. I don't know that the possible problems it creates with, first off, the individual who begins to think they're better than the team. And the other part is those elements of society that begin to come in and make it ugly. That I don't know how that's going to all end up playing out. It's just to me it's very complicated. They've opened this thing up and then used the right word, the Wild Wild West. It could really be that way. Only time will tell. I'm hoping, for me, when I came in to see a player from the agent perspective, I was very open with the parents and the player that, you have to understand, how you're going to make your money. And that's being a great player. Forget all this other junk. Forget all the marketing and everything. That's wonderful. Those things can get done. You can have a part in that. But if you do not play on the field each and every play, you commit yourself to your team, all those types of things, all that stuff will never happen. It's a bunch of junk. So I'm hoping that these guys, as they come into this, certainly there will be those that can sit them down and have those conversations with them and try to keep them focused on the most important thing in this whole process. And all this other stuff is just that. It's stuff. It's great. You'll be able to make some money off of it, help your parents, whatever it may be. Wonderful. But understand it for what it is. I don't know if I made any sense with that, but there you go.
Oh, yeah.
No, it makes a lot of sense, and we've wondered about that as well. And like you said, with anything else out there in the world, there's always going to be some seedy characters, wanting to get involved, and you got to be wary of that. So yeah, who knows where it's going, but definitely.
Does it include the parents? Did the parents get involved now? Do they? Do you have to pay? It has the potential, guys, to get so sticky, and I just hope it doesn't. And I do think that the teams will need someone maybe simply assigned to that, to making sure the players, are in line. And when I mean in line, I'm just meaning that they're all understanding, constantly about the most important part of this thing, their education, which it really is, but their commitment to team and their play, because all of those things ultimately will get them where they want to be. If you have the ability to play in the NFL, man, play your tail off. You do well and you have those, those assets, those skill sets, then you're going to go play and you're going to make a ton of money. Don't forget about that in trying to get, $1,000 for something.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Just a moment ago, you mentioned John Madden, obviously, fortunately passed away just a few days back, and it was bizarre, Van. They had just done the documentary, and I saw where apparently he did have a chance to catch that actually just a couple of days before he did pass away. But we actually had Tom Flores on the show afterwards to talk about it a little bit. Your thoughts on John Madden, his place in the game of football, and his passing just a little over a week ago?
I think it's a big loss for the NFL. What he has done for the league is he has done as much for the league as anyone. I mean, all of the off the field things that were created, and what have you, were just awesome. But his ability to kind of change how commentators actually, try to get football over to the common person who's watching it on TV now. I mean, he really broke it down for people to help them understand, what that receiver was looking at, what shoulder he was going at, depending on what route they were running at, or what they were doing from a blitz perspective. If a guy, and I'll just say this, Baylor did an excellent job of what they did in their pass rush, and it's with these guys. I mean, it was just amazing. But Altu would come in, basically get that guard, kind of nudge that tackle a little bit, and then the linebacker would come around, or the DN would come around in a sort of a swing or a loop and come around him, and it was wide open the whole game. I mean, they sacked this guy 10 times?
10 times,
yeah, they could never figure it out, But things like that, he was really good at explaining and helping people, helping you or the public understand just what was going on the D-line. He had a way, common sense of talking to the player. I wouldn't call John an intellect. I don't think he would suggest that. He was a common sense guy, and he approached it that way. He was a good listener. And here again, what makes a great coach is a man that the guys, and again, most of the guys that go play are very street smart. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they get it. And it may not always be it may not work out the way they want it to, but they understand someone who's honest with them. And John was that guy. I mean, you just went there and you felt like he was being super straight with you, really honest, and the guy was funny as could be. I mean, it was just, he had all of those characteristics of a guy, that could get players at that level, and at that ego, if you will, to really come together and play really well. And so it's going to be a guy I think that's really going to be missed in the league. And he's a great guy, man. I enjoyed him. Good man.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I don't think he just changed the way color commentators do in football. I think he changed it in all sports. If you just look at like pre-Madden, post-Madden, how people did color commentary in sports, he made it very okay to have fun and kick back and not just talk about things that were over people's head. Like, he never talked that over anybody's head. I don't think you knew him, but I mean, I didn't know him, but just watching him, he could not, if he tried, talk over someone's head. It was not in his DNA. And now you've got, I mean, a generation of commentators in sports that know, like, look, you're not talking to just coaches and players. You're talking to fans. Talk to fans. Enjoy it. Have fun. Make it fun for them.
And even more so, you're talking now to more women. There are more women watching the game and becoming a part of the game, whether it be referees or whatever, but they've worked hard to try to bring that group of people into the game, and he literally would bring it down. That's probably not the proper way to say that, down to level, but at a level where someone who really doesn't care that much about football could really understand it, And so it was all levels. All levels of this is where he came from, I think, and what he's really done for the sport. And goodness gracious, we're going to miss him and his whole bus thing and his whole, I mean, when he was around, guys, you just knew he was there. It was an aura about him, and it wasn't because he was popping off about himself or coming in trying to make everybody, hey, I'm here, guys. You just kind of knew he was there because you just felt good about yourself, and those guys again that are that way. And again, I bring it back a little bit to Tom Flores and Aranda, a little bit. They have a unique ability when they can get a group of guys like that to come together and play together and win. They have a unique ability to make you feel good about yourself. And it doesn't matter your situation. When you're standing there talking to them, they're not talking down to you. They're not doing any of that stuff. They make you feel important, and everything they're saying, you actually do listen to. It's hard to explain that type of person, but when around them, they're just special, and you kind of want to be around them. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it's just incredible the way these men can come about in life. And you look out there and go, oh, wow, man, they won a lot of games. That coach did really well. All that one. Well, there was a reason they did that, and there was a reason they had great success. And whether it's Grant Taft, whether it's Renner, whomever it may be, for the most part, these men are men that allow players to get close to them and feel confident and comfortable about being around them.
Van, you talked about, we touched on his name a couple times now, Tom Flores, and I mentioned that he was with us last week to talk about the passing of Coach Madden, but we did get a chance to talk to him before and also, after the big Hall of Fame announcement a few months ago. What did that mean to you to see Tom Flores finally get that Hall of Fame call?
Oh, everything, because the guy deserved it. The guy was a stud, and he was a quiet man. A lot like Aranda a little bit. I mean, he was just quiet, kind of. I mean, he wasn't, John was boisterous and fun, and Tom was kind of quiet, but still had that same feel about him. You just, again, like I said a while ago, you just felt real good about yourself when you went and you were next to him. You left feeling very confident in who you were and what you're trying to do, and so that part of it is just the guy was a stud. He deserved it. It was fortunate for me. He actually, my ninth season, I got traded up to Seattle, and I joke about it sometimes. I was asked to say a few words up there when we were there, and I just thanked him for trading for me up to Seattle and put me on scholarship for a couple of years, because that's kind of what he did. I mean, I was able to go out there and make some plays for him, and interception here or there and a fumble here or there, whatever, some tackles. But for the most part, it is what it is, and it was good. And but he was just really good to me, and so I just really think a lot of the man and what he stands for. So that was fun going up there and seeing a lot of the those guys that are there, that just the guys coming back that were on that team. And we talk about teams. That Raider team, guys, is one of the most incredible group of athletes and players you'd ever want to be around. Let's see, in the Super Bowl year in '82, there were 9 of those guys went to the Pro Bowl, and that's pretty amazing. 3 guys and 3 guys in one secondary went to the Pro Bowl, and I laugh because I don't know if the players just kind of just sucked it up and said, I'm sorry, we have to vote for all 3 of these guys. We just have to. Because, you sit there as a player on another team going, man, 3 of these guys on the same team going, I can't do that. And it just gets kind of funny. And then to be honest with you, the other guy, Mike Davis, in our secondary should have gone, but there's no way they could vote for all 4 of us, but and see that. And so with Tom, with John, I know I'm getting ready to head up to Houston here, head over to Houston here in a couple of days. We just lost a good player and teammate with the Raiders, Bruce Davis, one of the largest human beings on the planet, but he was an offensive tackle and a really good man. And so that makes 2 this year, Mike Davis, who was a strong safety, and Bruce Davis. Both those guys are just good guys and wonderful guys. And talking to Walter and Cedric and Mac and Walter Abercrombie, and those guys, and we have a texting group every once in a while. We text a little bit, and we're getting old, and life is short, and we all need to get our act together and enjoy the short time that we have left, and make sure we're around each other. And that's important. And it's certainly, guys, y'all calling and talking about these coaches and just different teams. I'll be 62 in January. I can't even believe I said the word number 62. It's just insane. It is just insane. And so, but that's what it is. And so, but it certainly makes me look at that, all of those things, the players, the coaches, and just feel so blessed to have been around the Tafts, the Singletaries, the Abercrombies. Walter and I were captains together there at Baylor, and just all those guys. We were just so close and so tight, and I guess it's synonymous with having a lot of success. You know, we had a lot of success because we're probably close. That's part of it, and there were some really talented players there too. So all of those things it's just, man, I look at that, and y'all mentioned, you know, Tom and that stuff. It just makes me realize how blessed I am to have been around those types of guys, man. It really was.
Van, we could talk to you for 4 hours. Honestly, It's been great talking to you. Thanks for hopping on the show. Really great taking down memory lane. And look, if you're up next year for a game, we'll get you in the studio so you can see our new digs and all that. But thank you so much for hopping on the show and enjoy the new year as much as you can. That was great to hear. That's a great message to end the interview on, about spending more time with people, because, you know, the last couple of years we haven't gotten to, and we should really reach out and enjoy the time that we're here.
One other question, guys. Has it gotten below 90 degrees there yet?
Yeah, it has actually. We did have a little bit of a cold front, but I think it's like 70 today. So it's.
Dude, I'm down here in Uvalde, man. It's amazing. I mean, it's like, goodness gracious. We were just laughing the other day. So anyway, I'm rambling now. So thank you. It's all good, man. Love you guys. And by the way, Walter, I talked to him earlier today. I got to take Ken Cedric fishing. I promised I would. So we'll be doing that sometime this spring. And goodness gracious, those guys are always on me. So it's all good. Thank you.
All right, Van, thank you so much. That's Van McElroy, former Baylor's and Raiders DB, with us, and a longtime NFL agent as well. Craig, such a great perspective on so many different things that you can go across the board because of his life experience.
Yeah, you know, if we had him on a little longer, I would ask him just his thoughts on the Raiders being in Vegas now and kind of how they've settled in there, and, you know, just being somebody who was a part of the old regime. You know, that's got to be awfully interesting just to see them in that environment, you know, after all the years in L.A. and Oakland. But, yeah, I mean, clearly just you could do an hour podcast with him easily on just the Raiders time period or just the NFL time period, but certainly on just the Baylor time period as well. And, you know, cool to hear his perspective on Dave Aranda and on, you know, JT Woods. I'm very excited to see what JT's NFL stock looks like. One thing I know is JT's going to be good regardless of what happens in football. I mean, football's obviously going to bring the most money right away, but a very intelligent young man that truly you don't have to worry about life after football with him. And I think that's the case with a lot of these guys, which, you know, I think a lot of people probably look at their teams like, oh, it's just nothing but good guys. And go, you know, everybody kind of feels that way for the most part. But, like, you really can truly say that about a lot of these players on this Baylor team this year, because we've watched them now for the last 5 years, like, grow up and go through more than some go through in a lifetime. And they come out of the wash that much better for it. And JT is definitely one of those guys. But, yeah, with his size, you know, like 6'2"-ish, with his speed, which I'm curious to see exactly what that is, you know, 40 time-wise in a combine setting and all that. But he's going to do well for himself. I have no doubts that JT will do well for himself and get an NFL shot. And, you know, I'm looking forward to now, and hopefully, here in the next, you know, few weeks, everything cleans up enough that where we get to have that big full-blown NFL Pro Day with the players, because they've been kind of having this in the works now for a couple of years, where you looked ahead and you thought, well, all right, a couple of years ago they had, you know,
James Lynch.
James Lynch was a big deal, you know, but Bravion Roy, James Lynch, you know, those types of guys. And then last year it was kind of hit or miss, you know, wasn't a huge crowd for the guys, but there was a couple players obviously. But this year though, I mean, between Abram Smith and Terrell Bernard and Jalen Petrie and JT Woods and, you know, so on and so forth, Tyquan Thornton, I'm very hopeful that we get to see a full-blown, you know, coaches can show up in Waco and watch these guys work out, open to the public type of pro day, because this one's, like I said, been in the works for a while, and I think it would be a real show and a real treat with the amount of people that would be interested in coming and checking out this roster.
Yeah. JT Woods is one of those guys who – to me, especially you would want, because of everything you said about his character too. And like, yeah, so if he winds up being a 4th-round draft pick because of his 40 time, it's only because of his 40 time. Like that's kind of the thing, because he can catch everything that comes at him. He's shown that. He's got separation speed, and then he's run some picks back. Plus, I mean, I mean, look, he lays the wood when he hits, and that's what you want to see. Mm-hmm. And you don't see targeting penalties with him, so he knows how to do it right. So he's someone who you fear, but it's not going to be, helmet to helmet and all that stuff. So there's not too many knocks on JT Woods. Like Van said it's just going to be about how he runs for the draft alone.
Yeah.
After that, you know what kind of football player he is. Absolutely. Okay, we'll take a break right here. On the other side, we'll come back. We had so long with Pat Nunley, not with Pat Nunley. We got Pat Nunley on the other side, but so long with Van McElroy, but it was all great stuff. And again, we could have gone forever with him. But Pat Nunley on the other side talking about a big win for Baylor to move to 2-0 in conference last night over an improving Oklahoma team with Porter Moser, and an interesting kind of finish to that game, very similar also to the Iowa State game. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
American Bank has been serving Waco since 1952, and we're just getting started. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Over the past few years, we've been busy investing in new technology to give you the best banking experience possible. We've also expanded our downtown branch and built 2 state-of-the-art buildings at our Woodway and Belmead locations. With bright open lobbies, plus fast, personal, interactive teller machines, everyone in Waco is now just minutes away from face-to-face banking. Visit us today and see how we're invested in serving you at American Bank. Member FDIC.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
The year is wrapping up, sports bettors, but BetUS still has your NBA, NHL, college football bowls, UFC, PGA, and of course NFL betting lines up for their 27th year. Live betting on all of it. Log in to BetUS.com today. Use our promo codes SICK'EM125 for a 125% bonus on cash, or SICK'EM200 if you use crypto. So use the 3-decade leader, BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125 and SICK'EM200.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Abram Smith with a good run. Look at Abram Smith. They were pinned at their own 5 after the Mac Brown punt, and he weaves his way past midfield.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
For those of you just joining us, Smokey is a little under the weather, and because it's 2022, this is what you do when those things happen. But Craig and I are here doing the show. We'll be doing the show remotely for the rest of the week, and then probably back in the studio next week. Most everybody's fine, but you have to do this thing where you hide from each other. Pat Nunley join us in a couple minutes. Armstrong will tell us when he's on the line. But Craig, just a couple of things on the text line while we're waiting. JT in Pikes Peak says, thanks for keeping the show on, even with all you're dealing with. Hope everyone gets well quickly, and that's for sure. We do hope that, and we'd love to get back in the studio. As much as I love not having to put shoes on to do the show, I think that it's just better for everybody if we're in the studio.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks better, obviously. We got that brand spanking new, still pretty much shiny studio. It's great to be in and look at. And actually it's been a weird week. 2 days ago, that was the first time I'd been back in there in like 2 weeks, and it was nice to be back. New Orleans was fun, but it was good to be back in the studio. And yeah, we got there 2 days and already having to get back out, but we'll be back sooner rather than later. Appreciate everybody. I know it's not the exact same, but appreciate everybody for sticking along and just understanding that it's just the world we live in. And we could have just said, all right, we won't have shows, but we're not going to do that. So here we are, and we're going to make it as close to possible as we can, as if we were in studio, but just going to be the reality for a couple of days. And thanks for the well wishes. I think everybody's going to be fine in the long run, but you never, take it for granted. So hopefully those that need to get rested up and everything are getting rested up, and we'll be back in our 100% order by Monday at the latest, I hope.
Yeah. Scotty B, the Baylor King, says hopefully by the time that we know conference realignment and some teams by 2026 and playoff expansion happens by then, he thinks we need to use the BCS rankings in place of the playoff committee for the rankings, and I couldn't agree more. I think that would be the easiest thing. Look, you can tweak that formula however you want, and it'll only really have to be if you have guaranteed conference champions in the thing, then you're only picking or top 6 conference champions, and you're only picking the other 6 teams with the computer. I think that works out, and that way you don't have to have this show of what it is. I mean, it's just talking. It's just word salad.
Yeah, I mean, the BCS formula I could see where that could come into play potentially. I mean, that's the thing, Paul, is they got plenty of options. Like, they're not limited to just one thing. I mean, they could go a lot of different ways with this, and I just saw a couple of interesting comments. It's this one is not so much on what we're talking about, but it is of interest to the landscape of college football. Bill O'Brien, Alabama offensive coordinator, was asked about the transfer situation in college football. He said, it is similar to free agency without the rules. And then he said he will let Nick Saban handle anything else, but he called the portal interesting. So there's Bill O'Brien, free agency without the rules. And I mean, that's been my whole thing. That's why I talk about having deadlines and or having set time periods to do it all. But we can get back into that, and I know we got some basketball to talk about.
We do. Pat Nunley, Baylor Basketball Radio, joins us now. And Pat, Matthew Meyer, I'm just getting this off the bat right. He made a play at the end of last night's game that was, I think, ultimately the emotional dagger for Oklahoma, although I know they kind of hung in after that. But that play he made at the end of the game with the steal and then the bucket on the fast break was something he would not have done 2 years ago and is doing now. And I was absolutely beside myself going, who is this guy become in the last couple of years?
Well, yeah, Paul. I mean, he is a tough guy, and I think that's something that is underappreciated about him. He can come across as a little bit wild and free-flowing and all that, but he is a tough dude. I mean, he lost a tooth, basically half of a tooth early in the game, went looking for a mouth guard and came back out as soon as he could. And I thought that play was the dagger. It was, because that guy makes that three, and I don't know what the league gets cut to, but it's 5 or 6 at crunch time, and got the block. And not only did he get the block, but he went to the other end and had to make a play, a reverse layup. He used the rim to shield the defender away from him, who was coming, and the guy that's coming is 6'10", 230. So that was a phenomenal play. And That's the kind of play that Matt Meyer as a senior can make and is making.
Pat, your thoughts on James Akinjo's big night, great night shooting, played 37 minutes, ends up with 27 points, 3 of 5 from 3, 10 of 15 from the field, also had a handful of boards and a handful of assists. I know turnovers were an issue, but your thoughts on James Akinjo's performance?
Well, I love him. I mean, I just love that kid. I think he does some things that maybe a handful of true point guards in the country can do. You know, he loves the lane. He loves to be in the thick middle of it. He's got great court vision. He's tough. You know, he's tougher and maybe a little stronger than most people appreciate. But, you know, last night he was a 3-level scorer. He got it to the rim. He was mid-range. He made a bunch of threes, 3 of 5, I think, from the 3-point line. And he did have 5 assists. And I think the turnover thing might have been a little bit of fatigue. In fact, Scott said after the game that maybe they went a little harder on Monday than they should have gone. But with Akinjo, that's a guy you can't stick a bit in his mouth because he's so creative, he's so daring, which is what you want a point guard to be. I think you give him the freedom to create. And last night, hopefully just a bit of an aberration. 7 turnovers is a lot. In fact, 20 turnovers for Baylor is an awful lot. In fact, Oklahoma got 20 points off those turnovers. But I thought Akinjo was great. I love it.
Pat, this team, he messes around at the end of games a little bit more than last year's team did. Is that just a lack of finding themselves completely? So, I mean, they're the number one team in the country. They're still winning games. They won that game by 10 points last night, and it got a little close. But Iowa State got a little dicey. This one got close. Is that the team not maybe having as much acceleration towards the end as last year, or is that just the fact that the league is just better than it was a year ago?
Yeah, I think it's that. I really do. I mean, to close out a win at Iowa State in front of 14,300 people, they're 8, we're 1. You know, this is a signature win for them if they can get it. And they're good. They're really good. I chalked that one up to that. And by the way, it looks really easy to do what they're trying to do from the sideline. To get the ball in, I mean, that team last night, those guards were big. Those guys look like outside linebackers for the most part. So they're going to put a body on you, and they're going to fight through screens, and it's just hard to get the ball in. Now, Scott, again, after the game last night, said it just doesn't need to be that complicated. And so I don't know. I just chalk it up to the quality of the competition, and the stakes are much higher. And I do think, though, the bunching together of turnovers is becoming a bit of an issue. You probably overthink that, but that's 2 games in a row, you know, against Iowa State, 19 turnovers last night, 20 turnovers. That's hard to win a championship when you're giving the other team opportunities off turnovers. We call turnovers the great equalizer, and they are.
Pat, just how spoiled are Baylor basketball fans right now? I mean, I know it's kind of stating the obvious, but, you know, they have a close game, and it's like, oh, my gosh, the world's falling apart. There's a close game. It almost feels like that now because they win all the time. And, you know, a national title last year, 14-0 this year, number 1 again. I mean, do you ever just kind of sit back and just go, wow, and just kind of think about what all's going on right now? Are you able to kind of live in the moment a bit?
Yes, I am, and I get that. I mean, it is a little bit nerve-wracking, but you think about it, they won by 10. Yeah. Really good Big 12 team by double digits. And I think, you know, as I'm watching those games, what I'm thinking about is, and this is a similarity this year to last year, these guys sign up for pressure. I mean, they go looking for it. They really do. And so end-of-game situations like that, it wasn't pretty last night, but they will find a way. I mean, that inbound pass to Cryer, where he basically turned into Tyquan Thornton and received the pass and then kicked it back to Flagler. Flagler's fouled, whatever. That's a great play. That's a game-winning kind of play, and they make those. They make them consistently, repeatedly, and they're relentless. So I for one, never was real concerned about that. But it is, again, it's life in the Big 12. it's just the way it's going to be, and it's not going to get any easier.
I guess he was kind of, a little under the radar last year because of, he came in for Tristan Clark, and people thought that, he was kind of maybe a little bit of a placeholder in Flo Thamba. But he does little things that I think will never show up really necessarily on a stat sheet or just in moments. The thing was, Flo Thamba's kind of big and slow and blah, blah. I think people have to, anybody who criticized him at the beginning needs to just watch the guy play. And there's no wasted minutes with Flo Thamba on the floor, Pat. He is really developed. And since the national championship game, really now people are kind of like, we need to be afraid of this guy.
Yeah, that's a guy that, along with Chachua, I think, has so completely embraced his role. He understands what his role is. He doesn't play outside of his role, doesn't want to play outside of his role. And when he's getting 6 rebounds, 6 points, he was 4-4 at the free throw line last night, blocking a couple of shots, altering, 6, 7, 8, 9 shots a game. He's doing his job. And, you think about the work that Thamba and Sohan was part of it, but Chachua did last night. We had 19 second chance points. Oklahoma had 0. That's the game. That's the ball game. And that's Thamba, that's Chachua, that's a few others. Our guards are good rebounders too. But when you're doing that on the glass, you're not going to, Baylor's not going to lose. Now, they got to be careful with turnovers, but that is the ball game. 34-16, Baylor out-rebounded Oklahoma. That's how you win in the Big 12.
Pat, I want to go back to my last question, kind of ask you a little bit differently. Just what's it like to see and be in the midst of witnessing this Baylor run and what they're doing right now? I guess we're all able to appreciate it as it's going along, but you're also always worrying about that next game and the win streak and all that. But I don't know, are you able to wrap your head around exactly what they've been able to do over the last, really going back 2 years now, all the way to the team that wasn't able to play in a tournament due to COVID? It's just unbelievable when you really, try to wrap your mind around the last 2 years in particular.
Yeah, it is hard. And I don't know that I'll ever get my arms completely around it. But what I do is read what others have to say about us, because I'm so biased. I'm so close to the program. And when you have a guy like Seth Davis say that over the last 3 years, Baylor is the best basketball program in the country, that says a lot. And that's pretty heady stuff. And it is hard to really appreciate that. So I'm just enjoying the ride like everybody else. I don't think we're going undefeated. I don't know how anybody as strong as the league is this year. Now we might, but I just don't see it. I think people need to just view the Big 12 race as a marathon, not a sprint, because that's exactly what it is, and it's a grind. And what you want to do is play for a championship, and just trust the fact that right now this team is built. It's built for a championship again, and let them do what they do. Don't get too caught up in turnovers, or you can break a game down to multiple levels. I think you have to stay away from that and just understand these guys know how to win tough games against high-quality competition.
Pat, would you say that the chief competition for them, I know Texas is better, but we got a question from the chat room. It's got to be Kansas and the roster that Bill Self has built. And Kansas was a good team last year. They weren't a good team by Kansas's standards, I guess. But this is a Kansas team that can really shake up the conference. And that's kind of weird to say, seeing as that was the team that won it for so many years in a row.
Yeah, Kansas is really, really good. Again, I obviously haven't seen them live. I've seen them on TV, and they're kind of the same old Kansas. They're fast. They're really fast. They're really athletic. They look a lot like us. I don't think they defend as well as we were defending. Gotten a little bit away from that. But I think if you compare Baylor and Kansas right now, in my mind anyway, the edge would be on the defensive end. This is an elite Baylor rebounding team. And defensively, we've seen what they can do. The Villanova game was historic defensively. So I think that's how those two stack up. Haven't played yet. We'll see. But Kansas is really darn good. I don't think we've seen Texas at its best yet. They're getting there. They've got a lot of new guys, and getting those guys together cohesively and communicating and building some chemistry might take a little while. Texas Tech, Iowa State's going to continue to play well, and on and on and on. But I do think right now Kansas and Baylor have shown themselves to be the teams to beat in this league.
Yeah, we get Texas Tech, Iowa State, 11 versus 25 later on tonight. So that should be a darn good basketball game. And obviously a great scene in Hilton, a hard place to play, but Scott Drew just keeps winning there. But what a way to set up for that Sugar Bowl win later on in the night. That was a big Saturday for the Baylor Bears. Yeah, that was a big day. That was a great, great day. And going to Iowa State it's one of my favorite places to be in the league. I love Allen Fieldhouse, but there's something about Hilton Coliseum. The fans they're great. They're hospitable. They just want to see a great basketball game, and they saw one. And I think they deserve to have the team that they've got right now. But you're right. I mean, so they play us, and immediately after the game, post-game interview with their coach, he said, all I'm worried about right now is the next game. There's 8 versus 1, and, number 1 coming into Hilton for the first time in a long time, and all sorts of statistics that really made that a high-profile game, as it should have been. But the gauntlet that they're going to run after Baylor, starting tonight, as you said, we're going to learn a lot about Iowa State, and we'll see. But that's life. That's life in this league. I love it. Yeah. It's the best league in the country. In fact, Andy Katz tiered the conferences across the country, Tier 1, Tier 2, down to 4, and he had the Big 12 as the Tier 1 conference. Nobody else. There were 3 or 4 leagues in Tier 2. Big 12 is standalone Tier 1 right now, and I think we're starting to see why.
Well, Pat, it's good that you like Hilton Coliseum because Iowa tried to keep you there with that weather the other night. So
yeah, that was dicey. And we're on the plane, and we can get pretty much every channel that we want to get on this really fancy plane coming back, except the Sugar Bowl. And so we were, standing on one foot and trying to tell the pilot go higher, go lower, go sideways somehow so we could get the reception. And it was interesting. I missed every score of the game. I'd missed a score because of whatever turbulence. Come back on, and we're up 7-0. We have no idea how we scored. Somehow we put the pieces together, and then ultimately we got back. I got to watch the last 6 or 7 minutes at home. So I guess I did see one score, but it was a banner day in Baylor athletics, no question about it. Fun to be a part of it.
Yeah, well, next time, Pat, they may not look. They won a New Year's Six game for the first time ever. They may not let any of those guys on the plane watch any scores. Like, it's superstition rules in sports. I mean, you know how that's going to be. You close your eyes when they get to the 20.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I have no idea. And it's fun to just be a fan and get a piece of it. And it's really fun to be. I mean, you think about it too. This applies to football as well. I think, and I'm saying this with my Baylor hat on, and I'm just in. I think there's a real humility about Baylor sports right now. Really, really darn good, but we earn it. We do. We don't take anything for granted. This team, this basketball team, is taking nothing for granted. They play hard. In fact, Porter Moser after the game talked about how hard we play, how relentless we are. And we don't feel like we've earned a darn thing, even though we're the reigning Big 12 and national champs. And that's a nice place to be. That's a healthy attitude that's going to serve us well.
Yeah, I was thinking about Porter Moser being in the Big 12 and how, I mean, there's a good coach that leaves and a good coach that comes in. And, of course, a couple of years he won't be. But, of course, they get to make that trade for Kelvin Sampson. So it's not really changing anything. But, this is the best league, Pat, and it's going to stay that way.
Yeah, it is. And Porter Moser is good. I mean, you watch the first 10 minutes of that game, 8 to 10 minutes, they sliced us up. They were shooting layups. They were dunking the ball. Now, as we usually do, we made adjustments and got that figured out. But we were well scouted, and his game plan for us was outstanding. And we had to do some things to right the ship, and we did, as we usually do, because, again, Baylor had on, we've got the best coaching staff in America. I truly believe that. And we've got all of our coaches back from last year, and we just continue to roll because of it. These guys are exceptional. They really are.
Pat Nunley, Baylor Basketball Radio, play-by-play color, whatever he needs to do, whatever the situation is. Wherever John is across the country, whatever job, he does it.
Well, I'm just going to tell you guys this. Doing his job is flexing different muscles than the ones I normally flex. I don't know that I have those. It's like the way I put it to John is, it's like moving a shooting guard to play the point. You know, you can kind of do it, but man, it just doesn't feel right. So it was awfully good to have him back sitting next to me courtside last night. There's nothing like J-Mo.
All right, Pat Nunley. Pat, always great to talk to you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Okay, thanks, guys.
All right. Pat Nunley with us here on Sick 'em 365 Radio, 365 Sports. When we come back, we wrap up the 4 o'clock hour. In the 5 o'clock hour, Mike Scarborough will take us through how LSU did anything last night. And we'll talk to John Machoda about the Cowboys and their upcoming matchup with Philly this week, which might be a second half, bench brawl because the starters may come out of the game seeing as no one, it's not going to affect the playoffs all that much. This is Sick 'em 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Masters of Barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads, crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. This is it. This is when you're going to sell something in May. You have Mother's Day. You have Easter. You have things that go on, weddings. But this is a great time for your business.
Exactly. And one other thing we do that a lot of people don't know is we buy jewelry, heirloom pieces, gold, silver bars, gold bullion, watches, anything you may have that you want to. If you don't want to use it and remake something like I did in a state yesterday, and I looked at 35 pieces, well, they're probably going to sell me back 30 because it's something they're not going to wear, nothing to use. So if you're looking to get a few bucks or to sell something or something you just don't wear anymore, I make my wife go through her jewelry box about every 6 to 8 months, and the things that she doesn't wear on a daily basis, this sounds horrible, but I take away from her, and then I'll put in my estate counter, but then that gives me the chance to rebuy her something new moving forward. Instead of looking down 20 years down the road and you have 300 pieces of jewelry, it's something to refresh and make her buy something new along the way.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Welcome back into Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak, Smokey under the weather, and we're doing the show remotely for this week. And if you can't figure out why, then I'm sorry that you've missed the news the last 2 years. But that's what we'll leave it at right now. Craig got a text from the 405 about Caleb Williams. All right, follow me here. Caleb Williams to UNC. As a college student, we'd like to look at social medias, and by using the great girlfriend formula, UNC seems like a very likely destination for Williams. While he said he's on a family trip, his high school prom date has been posting photos from the same beach that Caleb has, and he even posted a photo with Caleb in it. She's a student at UNC, and I would not put it past any player to transfer because of a girlfriend. With Sam Howell declaring, a good spot opens up for him with a team that could be poised to make a run. May sound silly now, but don't be shocked if it happens. I don't know about UNC, but you know what? If anybody can sweet talk anybody into going somewhere, it is Mac Brown.
Yeah, I just Googled or Twitter searched Caleb Williams UNC just to see the curiosity, and there's definitely a lot of people on TikTok who have been following, this little side story here and have been probably starting to get their hopes up a little bit. But you know what? I mean, who the heck knows? If like you said, if anybody could lure Caleb Williams in, it would be Mac Brown. I mean, the guy's a hell of a recruiter. Obviously didn't get the results that they wanted with the really high preseason ranking. Did not finish the way that they probably wanted to, obviously, with that preseason hype. But yeah, Mac Brown's he's a hell of a recruiter, and that's a good institution, good school. I wouldn't say that would be where I'd be leaning as far as a favorite goes, but hey, it's a wild card that maybe has suddenly entered the race and maybe makes things a little bit more interesting. It's a lot closer to home than USC is, being a Washington D.C. guy, so. It makes a little more sense from that standpoint. So yeah, I don't know how much validity to put into that, but obviously there's a little something to it because so many people are talking about it now, and who the heck knows? That would not be where I put my money, but I would also not put too much money against Mac Brown pulling in a big time recruit either.
No, UNC makes more sense than a couple of places I thought of yesterday when you think about the fact that who's the quarterback at UNC. Next year, nobody knows. I mean, Sam Howell's gone, and it's open, and Mac Brown that was just a team that was so up and down this year. If I'm Caleb Williams and I'm leaving Oklahoma, I'm going to either familiarity with Lincoln Riley and the guy I wanted to play for the whole time, or a place that is equal to or better, and that list is really small. Really small.
Yeah, I mean, we said it before, you can hate Oklahoma, if that's your thing, or, you're not a big Sooners fan or whatever, but there's certain things in life that we cannot deny and you can't argue. And to say anything but Oklahoma is a top 10, and you could even probably go higher than that institution all time. I mean, that's just facts. That's just plain simple facts. So you have, more than a handful of Heisman winners and 7 national titles and then all the Big 12 championships. And I mean, they're a blue blood, by definition, and there's not a lot of places to go where you're taking a step up. USC would certainly be on equal footing. Not recently, but overall historically, yes. I still think that's probably where he ends up because of Lincoln Riley and all those connections and just the bright lights of Hollywood and all of that. But, hey, he can go anywhere he wants to. I mean, he could call up any school in the country right now and say, hey, I'm interested, and they're going to at least take that phone call. I mean, every single one will. So it's going to be a fascinating storyline to continue to watch until he makes his decision. And the more this goes on, I mean, now you got, UNC's fan base is fired up about, oh my gosh, like maybe there's this possibility. Oklahoma fans are crossing their fingers and hoping he comes back. USC fans probably feel like he's headed that way, and who knows what other fan bases may feel like. So yeah, Caleb Williams' watch it's going to be very interesting. And I kind of shake my head and laugh that there's this. I would imagine he's probably 19 by now, around there. But this 18, 19, 20-year-old young man is on a beach somewhere doing whatever he's doing on vacation, and the whole world of college football is watching him, his every move, and his TikTok pictures to try and glean a clue of where he's going. It's got to be a wild feeling on his part to have this much attention. But I don't know. I think he's probably enjoying it a little bit.
Yeah, there's only two schools that don't make immediate sense for him right now. That would be Alabama and Ohio State, because Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud both coming back next year. And, you're not going to upset the apple cart there with the two best quarterbacks in the country. But outside of that, I mean, everybody else is fair game. Wherever he wants to go, he can go. I mean, he'll go there. And
you know what? If he went to UNC, I'd actually be cool with that. I would actually enjoy that, because it would be something different. It wouldn't be the automatic, oh, he's going to USC. And if he goes to USC, I mean, look, as college football fans, I don't think that the Blue Bloods always, they all have to be good for it to be good. I know some people argue, well, the Big 12's not good if Oklahoma and Texas. I don't know. They had a pretty entertaining year this year. I mean, the Big 12 did pretty okay for itself, even though Oklahoma wasn't its usual self because of all that was going on. And Texas obviously was what they were with Steve Sarkisian in year number one. But I still thought it was a highly entertaining season, and they got plenty of viewers and all of that. But I mean, what we've seen now with the transfer portal and those types of things, it's typically, the rich getting richer. And I know UNC is not a school of the poor by any stretch of the imagination, and they are a blue blood when it comes to basketball. But in football, that would be kind of a, whoa, North Carolina, really? That'd be kind of cool, rather than it just being the automatic of, USC or Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, et cetera. That'd be pretty cool to see that, and obviously that would send shockwaves through the ACC as well. So, I wouldn't be, if he's going to go somewhere, I would like it to be kind of a surprise of where he's going.
As a fan of a team in the ACC, as interesting as that would be, it does make me a little nervous, especially since the team I'm a fan of beats that team all the time, even in spite of their woes. All right, we'll take a break right here. We come back. Our old friend Mike Scarborough tells us how LSU found its way through a game last night. Of course, they lost, but with 39 players, and then what their roster looks like next year, because transfer portals hit them hard, but that doesn't mean the transfer portal doesn't giveth as well. This, SicEm 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full-service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Corral on 2nd and 15 as they're chopping down on his legs, and then they take him down high as well. Ika finished it.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome back in. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. LSU had to play a game last night with 39 scholarship players, most of their coaching staff gone, using analysts and GAs, and just kind of a wild thing. Brian Kelly obviously takes over this morning. You know, I mean, he, not that he wasn't, but as far as everything else that a head coach does, he'll be the official head coach from now on out without the bowl game in the way. Mike Scarborough, our old friend, joins us now. And Mike, what were the reasonable expectations for that game last night, given the situation that LSU had, and especially with no quarterbacks available to them?
I think the best option would have been if they could have convinced the SEC to let them weasel out of playing the game, but that they were unable to do that. So you saw what you saw last night, and we're glad that abomination is over, and we don't have to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, and rightfully so. Mike, what does just the state of LSU, I guess, how would you kind of describe the state of LSU's roster right now? Kind of how they arrived at that point. Obviously, there's a lot of factors driving in, but ultimately, what does Brian Kelly look at roster-wise and say he's got to do starting right now?
He said it last night, and it's kind of
what we've been saying for weeks on all our shows is, you know, he's got to go big transfer portal. You got to hope to see. Then you wait to see what the NCAA is going to do for next year's class. Is there going to be another plus number that's added to the 25? Because LSU is not the only school in college football that has these types of issues with the roster. And so is this going to be an ongoing thing where you get a +5, a +7? You know, how's that going to work out? Because, you know, LSU now with the way their roster looks, number-wise, they're built for the Southland Conference and not the Southeastern Conference.
Quarterback-wise, you know, they're set on that position on the roster, though, right? At least for now with Miles Brennan, Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah,
but
in actuality, I think they have to get another quarterback. I'm not sold on Miles Brennan. We don't know what kind of shape he's in. We don't know if he can ever stay healthy for any period of time. And look, he's a great kid, covered in since he was a high school recruit. But in my mind, you don't count Miles Brennan. You don't necessarily look for another transfer portal quarterback right now. But maybe you hold out back a spot after you go through spring football practice and got a more look of a lay of the land.
Saw earlier today where Austin Thomas is out at LSU. He was in a general manager type of role, and Baylor fans might recognize that name because he was briefly here in Waco. When Dave Aranda got the job, he brought Austin Thomas on, and then Thomas returned to LSU, but now out in the Brian Kelly regime. Your thoughts on that move, the role he played, and now Brian Kelly moving forward making that change?
I asked guys at Baylor what did he produce there. No one can ever give me an answer. I asked friends that cover the Aggies. No one can give me an answer there. He was at USC for 3 months, came back to LSU. He's been LSU back and forth now, I think 3 or 4 times. So one thing I've always said about the LSU and all the analysts and so forth that are in the building, it's always feel like the 2 Bobs from Office Space need to show up and say, "Now, what is it you do here?"
Yeah.
But because there's so much duplication, there's nobody that they've all got these titles, and you still really don't know what they do on a daily basis. And I'm not saying that's the case with Austin Thomas. But there's one thing I do know with Brian Kelly, and I think probably goes back to his Grand Valley State days and talking to the guys that, run Irish Sports Daily, is that he watches every nickel and dime. And I'm told that when he looked at some of the contracts with assistant coaches that were handled by the athletic department, he said, no, from now on, those contracts got to come through me. So, while LSU's got a lot of money to spend and he's making $100 million, I don't think he's going to have a bunch of hangers-on hanging around the building like we saw under Orgeron. Orgeron's sideline looked like a retirement community.
Mike, isn't that like outside of football acumen and recruiting and whatever, isn't that why you hire a guy specifically with the skill set of Brian Kelly, is to eliminate redundancy?
Oh, it's got to be. I always have these visions, like if you would walk through the football office and you'd start opening doors, you'd open one door and there'd be a bunch of cigarette smoke, and you'd see a bunch of old codgers in there, former coaches at major schools who are now analysts, and they'd all be in there playing dominoes all day long.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Mike, what are they looking at in terms of already the damage done in terms of the NFL draft and more movement as far as the roster and kind of what to expect in terms of key losses headed into this offseason?
Well, like I said, it's going to be transfer portal real big, and I think there's a couple of high school kids to watch out for. Jacoby Matthews at Ponchatoula, a high 4-star safety. You got Citizen, the running back at Lake Charles Prep. Danny Lewis, the tight end from New Iberia that they'll go after, I think, and bring in for a visit. Haven't offered him yet. He tight end committed to Cincy. But in my mind, if you're Brian Kelly, you hold back as many of those of your 25 and then use the +7 to bring in as many immediate help transfer portal guys as you can, so that you're really kind of doing, what Michigan State did, and he said it last night. Look, he preferred to have it build his team with high school players, but this is a desperate situation. So I think it's going to be transfer portal heavy, and I think we've got a Polian on the staff now, Brian, and his brother is at Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
So we're already seeing him out extending offers to transfer portal kids and being very active. I think he's the point man for all of that.
Yeah, we say all this, and it sounds all like bad news, but they do have a new coach that's a $100 million guy who, again, is gonna create some excitement. What's the good news for them coming back out of this? What's left on the roster?
Well, I just think, look, if you're a football junkie, and whether you think LSU at best can go 7-5 next season, I think there's a lot of people that will be okay with that, as long as because they can enjoy the process. If you're a football guy, you can absolutely enjoy the process to see what's being built, understanding, for that first home game, the caliber of the recruits that are there for unofficial and official visits. How well were the camps attended this coming summer? Seeing kids start to, get coached up better at positions where maybe they weren't getting good coaching. So, then the commitments start coming in, and then I think that can get people excited. And all of a sudden, maybe you have some guys that are overachieving, and you win a game or two that you're not supposed to next season. To me, that's all you can ask for.
Mike, your thoughts on the Dale Brown court becoming official? We had Tim Brando was very passionate about this, I know, for a very long time, but saw your retweets from the LSU basketball program and some of the videos and stuff. Just your thoughts on that, I guess, naming and the meaning behind it and the history with Dale Brown there in LSU.
Well, Tim Brando's obviously was a big part of his career to Dale Brown, and that's understandable. I think most people that had issues with Dale Brown and the way the program was left, you might have a percentage of them out there that still didn't like the idea of him getting the court named after him. But I think overall time has healed most of the wounds. I mean, look, Billy Cannon, those wounds were healed with him, and I'm personally I'm glad that happened for Dale. Before he passed away, he's getting up there. He's still very spry and healthy, so he might have a good many years left. But it was good to see last night. So they get a big win over Kentucky. That was the bigger deal of the night. And then tomorrow night, number 1 South Carolina comes in here, and everybody's pointing to that in a whiteout for Kim Mulkey hosting the South Carolina Gamecocks tomorrow night. So. A lot of excitement there. I had to drop the Kim Mulkey in on y'all. Y'all noticed that.
I was going to ask. I mean, look, we have a lot of court naming controversy when it comes to Kim here in Waco. Did she attend the Dale Brown ceremony last night?
And by the way, between talking to you guys and David, most of the arguments I sided with you guys in Baylor, the Baylor administration. It makes no sense. When the city's going to ante up for a beautiful arena just outside of campus where you can serve alcohol and everything else. So I understand some of that and side with the administration, the city of Waco. But by the way, I watched y'all. I was messaging Dave like, man, when are y'all going live? I was so excited for you guys winning that Sugar Bowl. And watched y'all's entire post-game show late Sunday morning.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that. And Mike, you know this because you've been to the Sugar Bowl. Getting back on that first shuttle bus is not the quickest thing in the world to the media center.
The national championship game, almost not making it to post-game interviews because Jim Brown had to go down the elevator by himself. And they had only one working elevator.
Yeah. They need to get some of that gambling money, that casino money into that stadium, Mike. See what you can do about that.
Well, I'm sure y'all had a good time though. And got your belly full of some good food.
I think my blood is still half Cuvion right now. So, or roux. I mean, it's all in there. Go ahead, Craig.
Well, it's that time of the year. I hope you got some gumbo and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
You there?
Craig, you there? We lost you for a second.
I'm here.
Okay.
You got me?
Yeah, I got you, Mike. I can't hear Craig. Craig was trying to say something, so yeah, I can't. Armstrong, do you hear Craig? Oh, there was. All right, well, Mike, Craig does have a question. We had a little technical issue. We're doing the show remotely today because of it's 2022 and we've kicked a couple positive tests, so we're kind of back and forth in the studio. So certainly thanks for hopping on with us. We'll fix out this technical issue. Certainly appreciate you being on the show. Enjoy what looks like it's going to be a pretty fun basketball run as well.
Yeah, definitely. And again, congrats to Baylor on a great football season. A lot of LSU connections on that staff, and everybody on our message board, we were all pulling for the Bears. So congratulations, and give me a holler whenever you need.
All right, thanks, Mike. That's Mike Scarborough, TigerBait.com. We'll take a break right here. We'll try to get Craig reconnected and back on. John Machoda, DallasCowboys.com comes up next. This is SicEm 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Waco, our brands continue to win awards year after year. The 2021 Ram brand just received first place in the prestigious J.D. Power Initial Quality. The Dodge brand finished second to Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator is rated first among all midsize trucks. This month, you can get an early start to the new year with the Start Something New sales event, only at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
The year is wrapping up, sports bettors, but BetUS still has your NBA, NHL, college football bowls, UFC, PGA, and of course NFL betting lines up for their 27th year. Live betting on all of it. Log in to BetUS.com today. Use our promo codes SicEm125 for 125% bonus on cash, or SicEm200 if you use crypto. So use the 3-decade leader, BetUS.com. Use promo code SicEm125 and SicEm200.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machoda of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
We made it 2 hours and 15 minutes before we had a technical glitch, and sorry about that, Craig. It just we couldn't hear you. But I'll tell you what's happened in the interim is there have been quite a few comments on the chat room about your blue eyes. You've got some fans.
Wow. Well, thank you, chat, for that. I had nothing to do with it, but I'm glad to have them. They're nice to have, I guess. So yes, thank you very much. And yeah, I guess Mike kind of wrapped it up there. He mentioned, all the LSU connections on the Baylor roster. I mean, Jeff Grimes was an assistant there, and Dave Aranda, obviously, and Juice Johnson, and so on. And I was kind of basically asking him sort of that, but a bigger picture on Aranda, just showing his medal in year number 2. But we'll talk to Mike plenty of more times, and he kind of touched on it anyways. So all good. I'm here now, and hopefully no more issues until 6 o'clock.
Yeah, those. I mean, look, the LSU connections. Look, it's no coincidence that you get all those national championship caliber guys and you start winning pretty quick. Guys who know how to do it.
Yeah, you get guys who have been there, done that. They know what it takes, and certainly Aranda has been there, done that, and so have a lot of the others. But they're in really good hands, man. That's bottom line. There's not really an argument there, and very excited to see what kind of moves they're going to make this offseason. I mean, obviously last offseason it was like one day in, and Charlie Brewer was transferring, and then all sorts of just coaching hirings and firings, and they're going to have to remake the staff a little bit and retool the roster a little bit, but I think they're in really great hands. There's no question.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, John Machoda, The Athletic, joins us now. And, John, thanks for hopping on a little bit early. We're actually running a little bit ahead for the first time in I don't know how long. But, John, how do you see this game this weekend? The Cowboys and the Eagles really has no implications on it outside of some kind of wild things. Plus, they're playing on Saturday, so they have no idea. Do you see them, even though they say they're going to play everybody, resting some people?
I do. That's the thing. They've been careful with the way they've worded it, whether it be Jerry Jones or Mike McCarthy. It's I think the most common way it's been said is play to win the game. So you can still do that by having certain players not play. Like I mean, you can start the game with your first team offense and maybe play a few series with them, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense to have Ezekiel Elliott in there in the fourth quarter of this game. And let's be honest, like, even if the Eagles needed this game to make the playoffs, I don't think it would be that much different for the Cowboys. The thing is, though, is that the Eagles are dealing with even more COVID cases than the Cowboys are, and they don't have really any chance of improving. So I don't see them playing. So you're going to have basically a lot of Gardner Minshew in there. I don't see Jalen Hurts going there and taking a bunch of hits for a game that really doesn't mean a ton. So me personally, I would be surprised if Dak Prescott and the starters are playing in the second half. I think that they'll probably play him maybe a quarter, maybe depending on what the offense looks like. Try and get them in a good rhythm, and kind of put a positive finish to the regular season as opposed to finishing on what they did against the Cardinals. But I would be really surprised if Dak and Amari and the first team whole line is still out there in the fourth quarter. It wouldn't make any sense to me.
John, what were your thoughts just on that Cardinals game in general? I mean, obviously got down, but fought back, had an opportunity there late, but come up just short. What were your thoughts just overall on the showing against Arizona?
I mean, it certainly was disappointing because of, again, like, I factor in, like, who's out in the field. And that's usually where everything starts for me, because especially these last 2 years because of COVID, it's just changed so much from week to week on what a team looks like. If that was the Cardinals team that had a healthy J.J. Watt and a healthy DeAndre Hopkins and even several other players, Marcus Golden. I mean, that'd be a little bit different, Jordan Phillips. But to be that team that they had out there that really hasn't been playing well, lost in Detroit, and then to sit there and play that way. And the Cowboys just never looked like, I don't know if the right word is the aggressor, but they didn't look like the better team, which they clearly were. They're playing at home. They're as healthy as they've been all season. I just expected to see a much better product than that. And then one particular thing that bothered me was when the offense was sputtering for the first 3 quarters, why did they wait until the fourth quarter to pull out that Cedric Wilson pass play to Tony Pollard? And I'm not even meaning just that particular play, but why not try some of that stuff when it's very clear series after series, you're not getting a ton of traction. You're just running the ball into the gut of the offensive line and you're getting 1 yard. Why not try and spark things with that? Because that play certainly sparked stuff, but it was a little too much, a little too late. I know that those type of plays are in Kellen Moore's bag. It makes me wonder, are those being saved for the playoffs? But it worked out so well that it left me kind of scratching my head like, why aren't we seeing more of that stuff when the offense is sputtering? Because it seemed like that kind of got them going. It was just too much too late.
John, the other thing was the Cowboys had an unbelievable knack for penalties that negated their best plays in killing into momentum. I mean, Zeke Elliott had the best run he had in 8 weeks, and then it got called back because of holding. And they just have had that problem all year long with holding and whatnot and penalties. Is this something you see that's going to just creep on and stay with them? Because it's not like you can get rid of it now.
You know, that's a great question because that was such a huge part of that game. And obviously, if you're a Cowboys fan, you watch that game, it reminded you a lot of Thanksgiving, just with how closely things were called, not only on the offensive line, which to me are the bigger worry than the defense, because I really am fine with them playing an aggressive style of defense. And if you're going to get some pass interferences here and there, you're going to get them. But I like the aggressive style of defense. It's the offensive holdings, the false starts, things like that from the offensive line that just shouldn't be happening. But as a whole, the thing that probably surprised me the most was just after the game, how much the players talked about the officials. It wasn't just one or two, it was all of them. And when they kept talking about the officials, I was kind of like, this could be an issue in a playoff game where all of a sudden they think it's, woe is me, here the officials are trying to screw us over again, and it gets into their psyche. And that can obviously be a very bad thing because the Cowboys players feel like the refs are out to get them. And that's not a good thing to be having on your mind when you're trying to win playoff games, because let's be honest, there's not going to be any blowouts. Every team you're going to be playing is going to be good. And just having that in the back of your mind can be the difference between you winning a game and you going home early.
John, your thoughts on Michael Gallup and the very tough year that he's obviously been through, off and on, and now definitely off for the foreseeable future after that injury in the torn ACL. What do you think the future holds for Michael Gallup, and just how would you summarize just the way the last few months has gone for that young man?
Yeah, it sucks, man, because he's probably one of the best guys in that locker room, and you feel for him. In terms of what that injury will do for his career, I don't think it's going to have much of holding him back at all. I think he'll come back from that, and he'll get back to being the player he was before. Obviously, it's going to take him a while to rehab, but I think just his work ethic, the type of player he is, I think he'll come back from that. Now, that might be with the Cowboys, depending on is it going to be entering free agency? Depending on where he is in the rehab process and things like that will probably factor into what his market is. And maybe, depending on what the rehab's like, maybe the market for him is at a spot that he doesn't love and he wants to go one more year with the Cowboys and take a team-friendly deal to, basically go to the following year's free agency. I don't know yet, but I know that when everything's clicking and this offense is hitting on all cylinders, Michael Gallup is a 1,000-yard receiver. Now, we didn't get a chance to see it this year because the offense never clicked. To be honest with you, the offense has probably clicked its best when Michael Gallup wasn't there, when they went on that 6-1 start to start the season when he was out with the calf injury. It's almost like, in a way, and it sounds ridiculous to even say this, it's almost like they have too many weapons on offense that that it's kind of bogging them down because they're trying to spread the ball around as opposed to feed it to 2 or 3 different guys. But it is bizarre. If you would have told me that they would have had Michael Gallup come back for these last few games and he was going to be healthy and Amari was going to be healthy and CD was going to be, I just would be like, this offense is going to be hitting on all cylinders at the right time. And even with him back and him healthy, it just wasn't like that. And it's crazy that he hurt on that in that play and was able to even make that play after, feeling it. He said after that he felt his knee pop while he was making that catch, and for him to hold on and score the touchdown is it's just crazy. But yeah, like I said, you feel for him because he's just a good dude, and you want to see guys like him have success. So while I think there's a chance that you could end up being with the Cowboys again next year because of this injury, I also think there's a really good chance that he ends up getting a pretty good deal from another team because I don't know if this is an injury that's going to keep teams from still bidding on him because of what his upside is.
John, what do you think the best matchup is for the Cowboys in that first week of the postseason?
You guys might not agree with this, but I really do think it's the Cardinals, and that just because you just played them. Walking to the locker room after the game, I passed by the Cardinals coming off the field, and DeAndre Hopkins is still on crutches. And so I just find it hard to believe that he's going to be able to turn it around and be available for that game. I think I heard a report about a month ago that their hope is that maybe they can have him back for like the NFC Championship game if they reach that far. But it sounds like there's a good chance that it'll be most of the same guys that will be playing them again. And I like the chances in a rematch like that, only 2 weeks apart. Yeah, they'll probably have Marcus Golden back. They'll be in a little bit better position, but playing them in Dallas, I think that's their best bet there, because while I do think that this defensive front can tee off against a pocket passer like a Matthew Stafford, just the idea of like Aaron Donald wrecking a game, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey, Odell Beckham going off and having, like some crazy 180-yard game with like 2 or 3 touch. There's just a lot of things about the Rams I would be trying to avoid. And then, of course, then the other one would be, I think you do anything you possibly can to avoid Tom Brady and the defending Super Bowl champ. So of the options that are out there that are realistic, I do think it's the Cardinals.
John, Dak Prescott's had a good year, but I mean, there's obviously been plenty of times with, criticisms for this or for that. How would you kind of summarize Dak's year versus, maybe what you expected or what have you? I mean, I get why there's some reason for criticism, but, there's also been good. I mean, how do you kind of view it?
I think it's been a good year if you just look at it as a whole. But, going into the season, coming off of training camp, you didn't know for sure how he was going to be because of that ankle injury. I mean, heck, he was coming out of training camp with the shoulder injury. So you were kind of maybe tempering your expectations a little bit. And then he went out there and played the way he did week 1 at Tampa. And you were like, oh, damn, okay. Then this could be an MVP type year for this guy. And it really kept going that direction up until probably that last play, which was a great play. It's just so weird thinking about this now, because on that last play of the Patriots game, he gets hurt on that play. And it's just like, it's kind of like Michael Gallup is able to make this touchdown and he gets hurt on that play. It's bizarre how that all worked out. But since them beating New England, he misses the game against the Vikings. And since he's come back, there's really only 2 games where you saw that same Dak. And that was, I would say, against the Falcons and then, a couple weeks ago against Washington. But for the most part, it's just been a guy that he's struggling to find a rhythm. And I don't put all the blame on him, because I really do think that you could fix it real quick if you get that running game going again. I just think that's easier said than done. That's why they're going out of their way, bringing in these packages with 7 offensive linemen, because they know how important it is. They have to establish some kind of run to make these teams pay for putting these 2 deep safeties and playing the coverages that they are. And it's crazy to think with the way this Cowboys team has been constructed over the last 5-6 years, that this team would have a hard time running the football against even man boxes. It's just crazy. I just would never believe it. But that also was factored into his season too. So yeah, I don't think he's had a bad year at all. I think it's been good, but we were shown early in the year that it had a chance to be great. It had a chance to be his best year. It had a chance to be an MVP type year. And where it's at now is certainly not close to that.
John, what did you make of the pro football focus stuff about Trayvon Diggs, about how he's in spite of the 11 interceptions, he's the worst cornerback in the league?
The thing I make of that is I just think it's funny because their social media account, obviously they're trying to promote their content, but like they're always tweeting about Trayvon. They're always tweeting pictures out about 11 interceptions, all that stuff. But then in all their coverage, they're always dinging him for, all the yards he's given up and all that stuff like that. I'm just kind of like, why are you using him to promote all your stuff then if he's just so bad? It just, I don't know, it leaves me scratching my head. For me personally, yeah, does he give up big plays? Absolutely. He gives up too many yards. There's just no question about that. He's got to get better at that. My issue with the Pro Football Focus thing is that I don't know how their grading is. I just don't think they're giving enough of a grade for an interception. I think that whatever their mathematical, whatever they give for an interception, I just don't think is enough, because this guy has 11 interceptions and it hasn't been done in 40 years. Like, I don't know, like if you're quantifying that as like every interception you get a 7.2, well, that number should probably bump to probably about a 21.5. Like it covers up for a lot of other things. And especially with this team, when Trayvon Diggs gets interceptions, what it does for the offense, what it does for the rest of the team, this team feeds off of takeaways. And so, yeah, you can rank them down there, but it's just funny because if you did a redraft across the entire NFL and you only made it with corners available, like there's not 5 going ahead of him. So, I mean, you can rank them however you want with your statistics and that, but like when it comes down to playing ball and having a guy on your team, like there's just not going to be that many guys that you're going to take over Trayvon Diggs. So at the end of the day, that's kind of what matters. I just think it's funny that he's come along literally right after we got to watch, 4 or 5 years of Byron Jones, who Byron Jones is a PFF, love story. Doesn't take the ball away, but he's in great position and the passer rating against is real low, and he doesn't give up big plays, but he also doesn't make the big game-changing plays. So for me personally, if I'm running a team, I'd rather have the Trayvon Diggs, but I think if PFF's running a team, they would rather have Byron Jones.
Pick any 2 seasons that you've covered the Cowboys, and a person who COVID notwithstanding, saw almost every game in person. You did not see 11 interceptions in a year a couple times.
No,
the whole year.
Yeah, no.
From multiple people, everybody, the whole team, not just one guy. So I think the Pro Football Focus people need to take that in consideration too.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, and this is not to act like you can have issues with his game. I mean, you could talk about momentum plays. I mean, one of the big momentum plays of that Cardinals game is where he bit on that double move by A.J. Green on their opening series, and it set them up, in the red zone. I mean, that's a play that, like, he can't bite on that, and he is aggressive in that nature because he is looking for that game-changing pick and things like that. So, yeah, there's certainly things that he needs to clean up in his game, and because of that, if you don't want to rank him as, like, I don't know, like a top 3 or 4 corner or something like that, that's fine. I mean, I probably could even listen if you want to say he's not in the top 10 or 15. I mean, maybe even the top 20 finals. When you're telling me he's like in 70th and 125th and stuff, I'm just like, stop with this nonsense. Like, give me a break. Like, who's taking 100 corners over Trayvon Diggs? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, no one is. John Machoda, theathletic.com. John, Happy New Year. Great to talk to you, and enjoy Philly this week. You going to Philly this weekend?
Yes, sir.
All right, get yourself a cheesesteak. Enjoy it. We'll talk to you next week. That's John Machoda of theathletic.com. Craig, I need to send you this. I don't think you'll be able to see it. Armstrong, do you have the tweet I sent you earlier available for our listeners? I'm going to send this to you, Craig, so you can see it. I'm sure you already have. But you talked yesterday in Off the Radar about Jalen Hurts and his near-death experience with the fans, the partition collapsing down. Well, happy to report
wow,
and that it's fixed. It is all repaired.
What a trash organization, man. Like, they've zip-tied the falling railing. They've zip-tied it. Yeah, I mean, that's one way to address the issue, I guess. I mean, zip ties are awfully handy, and they can be awfully sturdy as well. But when you nearly have a lawsuit that could cost you tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, and could have ended up a lot worse for some people with injuries and whatnot, and you proceed to zip tie the problem, that's typical Washington football team right there is what that is. I mean, yeah. That's Washington as an organization summed up. I mean, only would have been more fitting if it would have been duct tape. I think that would have really been more up their alley, but okay. Yeah, I don't know, man. Washington. I'm just glad nobody got hurt, because that really could have been super dicey the more you watch that video.
There are some people with some bruises for sure.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to where they got up. But did they have a home game this weekend?
Oh, I don't even remember their schedule these days like that off the top of my head anymore. I don't know.
They are away, so
yeah,
that is hopefully temporary. But again, why would you? Again, and it's just also just bad ideas. Why would you let anybody get close enough to photograph it?
Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, I guess I still don't take back anything that I said, but I guess, that is, they don't have any more games, so they don't really need to fix it right at the moment. And so I guess the zip tie works for right now because you're not playing any games the rest of the year. But yeah, hopefully they get that fixed and figured out before next season. But yeah, I think it's just symbolic. And look, I grew up a Washington fan my whole life. It was just a family thing, even though I'm a Texan through and through. But that organization, I'm losing. I don't know. I don't even get worked up about them anymore. It's been so disappointing for so many years. But it wouldn't have surprised me at all if they were playing this weekend and they just zip tied it and said, all right, this is just what it is. But no games, so that's good to know.
What are you rooting for any of the particular names?
Oh, for the mascot?
Yeah.
No, not really, because I don't even know what they are. Is there a list at least to look at?
Yeah, I think that's Admiral.
I know there's been various lists and stuff. I know what they ruled out. I actually really like the Red Wolves name. I thought that was kind of unique, and I think the Wolves in general is a cool name that other than Minnesota in basketball, and they're the Timberwolves, but nobody else really uses that. So I think that would have been cool, but they're not going to do Red Wolves, they said, because it's copyrighted. I don't like the whole idea of doing the politics kind of angle on it. To me, that immediately just turns me away because it's politics, and I'm just not interested. So I don't know. I don't really have a preference. If I did, it would have been something like the Red Wolves. But I don't know what sort of the other options are that they're looking at this point in time. But we'll see, I guess.
So knowing that the Red Wolves are out of it, that was one of the finalists. Armada, Presidents, Brigade, Red Hogs, Commanders, Defenders, and, of course, no change at all in just being the football team.
Yeah, I don't like the Commanders and that kind of deal. It's just kind of generic and boring to me. They all kind of sound that way to me, honestly. The Red Hogs is unique, and that might actually be the most fun one for sure.
Yeah.
I think I actually like that. I don't love that name, but I like that name better than I like Commanders or Armada or military terms. I don't know.
I kind of do if you're going to pick any one of those, I like the Brigade, just because
Brigade, that's cool.
Brigade is different, but Commanders, Defenders, and Presidents.
It's so generic.
It does. I told Smokey this yesterday. If they pick any one of those, that would be like a movie or like a TV show.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. That's what you're going to name them that because you're going to name them something, and nobody's going to care what the name of the team is in the the offing of the movie. But yeah, they might as well name it the Washington Sentinels from the replacement.
I like that name better. I was going to say that. I like Sentinels better. I think that sounds way cooler than Commanders or Defender. Defenders that's so generic. That is so generic. I'd prefer Sentinels over that other option, over some of those other options. But we'll see. I think Washington football team has kind of run its course. I do think they probably, they need to make just an overall change, but ultimately none of it matters. Until they get rid of Dan Snyder, it's going to be the same story, different verse. I just don't believe in his leadership capabilities or in the way that he's run the organization. And they can make all the changes they want, but until there's a new owner in town with a new vision and a new way of doing things, it's going to remain really what it is. You're just putting a new coat of paint on the same issues that you've always had. So yeah, are they going to change the colors?
No, I saw they released a social media video yesterday with Doug Williams looking at the new uniforms, and they were burgundy and gold, the classic Washington colors. There there were stars on them. So, if I had to guess, I would say it's one of those
commanders or defenders type thing. Yeah.
Brigade.
I like Sentinels, but I know that's not in the running.
Didn't make it. And, look, if you don't want to pay respect to Keanu Reeves' Washington football team and Gene Hackman, then I don't know. Like, I don't know what your life goals are.
Yeah, I mean, if it's good enough for Keanu, it's good enough for me. I mean, that's kind of like everything in life. And really, if Keanu's cool with it, then I'm cool with it. And I'm probably going to watch some more John Wick tonight. I just have a feeling I'll probably now watch that. I don't know which one. I might just watch them in order. I don't know. I have a feeling or kind of an urge now to watch some Keanu. But, yeah, we'll see. I'm glad they're not changing the colors. That's why I asked, and I had seen different reports on that. And I thought that they were going to keep that. So I'm glad that they are, but – we'll see. They got bigger problems than naming the team, though. That's for sure.
That's just the first thing they've got to get out of the way.
Yeah, that's just like an annoyance.
Yeah. Your new merchandising done, and then you can deal with the fact that you are top to bottom bad.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a break right here. When we come back, the top 5. This is Sick of 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
American Bank has been serving Waco since 1952, and we're just getting started. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Over the past few years, we've been busy investing in new technology to give you the best banking experience possible. We've also expanded our downtown branch and built 2 state-of-the-art buildings at our Woodway and Belmead locations. With bright open lobbies, plus fast, personal, interactive teller machines, everyone in Waco is now just minutes away from face-to-face banking. Visit us today and see how we're invested in serving you at American Bank. Member FDIC.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brad, what makes you different than anyone else, in your opinion, as far as what Boozer's does?
The fact that I own the jewelry store, anything I need to do, will do, or can do, I can do it. The buck stops with me, whereas a lot of places you have to go up the corporate command and corporate channel. Well, if you come in and want to make a deal, we sit there and we make the deal.
And you can find whatever someone's looking for, correct?
Anything is obtainable. I don't care what brand it is, what size it is, how much it costs, large or small. Anything is obtainable, and we can definitely get that in for you to see, look at, or buy.
Do you have the opportunity if people have to pay things off as far as a layaway program? What about what you have with financing?
Absolutely. We have 12-month no interest financing. We have layaway. If you want to pay with Bitcoin, I can take Bitcoin now. So if there's any way you want to pay for it, we can find a way out to make it work.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
All right, we'll get to the top 5 in just a second, but Craig, we've got breaking Baylor news. Oh, we lost Craig again. Yeah, we lost you again. Wait.
You got me?
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay. So weird. All right, before we get to the Baylor news, tomorrow, I'd love to go over the Big 12 Bowl record. You want to do that tomorrow?
Let's do that tomorrow.
Games and yeah, cool. I'd love to do that with K-State wrapping things up last night. But Baylor's had their fair share of guys that are going to be playing in all-star games, and we know, especially in the secondary, they're going to lose a lot of players. I mean, Kalen Barnes has already announced. JT Woods is going. Raleigh Tejada has no, anything left. I mean, the good news is Al Walcott, you'll have him back. But now, you'll also have safety Christian Morgan has announced he's going to be coming back for another season at Baylor. Just put out a tweet a few moments ago that he's going to run it back. Said, can't wait to run it back with my brothers one last time, a chance to capitalize on an opportunity to be great. PTR, a whole lot of grit, were his hashtags. So, yeah, that's big news. I mean, he had an option. And he's got a lot of experience. He's been around the block a bunch of times. And so, yeah, that's huge to get Christian Morgan back at safety. And he can certainly get better as well, and he will with this coaching staff. So that's big news for Baylor football.
Yeah, he's blocked a lot of kicks in his time, too. I say a lot. He's blocked a couple kicks. He's a versatile player. All right, let's get to the top 5. All right, top 5 harsh realities college football fans may have to deal with for a while. And, some of them might be over, some might change, but there's just 5 things we just need to deal with. Number 5, there will always be too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to making decisions. No matter what, if there's a czar or anything else, Craig, we talked about this earlier, no matter what, there's still the conference commissioners, there's still the university presidents, there's still too many people that are going to be involved in decision-making. So even if they do make things better, there's still going to be a lot of people involved and a lot of noise in the room.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about that. There's so many voices, we were talking about earlier. It's very political. There's a lot of people that want what they want for the people that they're working for and promoting and all of that. And, without a certain leader in the mix that can kind of be the overall voice, it's hard to get anybody to agree on one thing, and that's why we just keep running in circles on every topic under the sun, from name, image, likeness to the college football playoff to everything really. So yeah, absolutely.
All right, number 4, we won't know a new government structure or how it will work for a while. So even if we get a new government structure here in the next year and a half, we still don't know how it's going to work in practice. So while it's good that there'll be new governance, and I kind of trust some of the people on that committee to make practical decisions that'll work, we still don't know what the reality of how it will work is and what will be done and how it will fix things.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to say that you're working on something, but what actually is it that you're working on, right? Yeah, I mean, we don't know. And, it's funny. They announced that they're announcing the formation of something and then announcing that they're going to work on stuff, and yet they're not announcing exactly what they're going to get down to brass tacks and actually do and accomplish. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be, again, a lot of voices trying to figure things out. But, I mean, what are you actually figuring out at the end of the day? Because it seems to me like a whole lot of things get talked about and they just never really get done.
Yeah, it's true. There's the committee to form the committee to look at the formed committee's committee. It's just what it is. It's just this big circle over and over again. Number 3, and this one is the hardest one for me to type and think about, but what you grew up with is over. What we grew up with, what we know of college football, it's over. It's completely over. It's done. It's not, I say completely, but it's over. What you think about everything you kind of have to let it go in the past and start to figure out how to love the new parts of the new game. Because otherwise, if you keep clinging to what you grew up with, which was awesome, and everybody loved about college football, most of that's gone now.
Yeah, and I think college football has just got to kind of look itself in the mirror and figure out what it wants to be. As far as the committee goes and figuring things out for the future of the sport, I think college football needs to figure out what exactly it wants to be. And I know what a majority of the schools want it to be. They want it to be what it's always really been, but there's also those bigger schools now that do feel like they are wanting to be something else. Like they're wanting to be more of an NFL-style run, franchise almost, or a league, rather than what college football has typically been. Now, as far as just college football in general, look, when I first heard about NIL, I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? It's going to ruin the game. It hadn't ruined the game in any way, shape, or form. People worried about the college football playoff. It has its issues, but it hasn't ruined the game at all. Now, you may argue it has somewhat just because of kind of all the things that we've talked about with this 14 playoff and the problems that it's presented. But there was a time we never thought we were going to get a playoff, and now we're arguing about expanding it, right? Or whether or not we should not expand it. But, yeah, the days of it just being about the school and players, and they come in and then they move on, but it's always the same, and it's always about the school. No, it's a game where now the players have more say than ever, and that's something that's not going to be put back in the box, and that's probably the biggest adjustment for people, but it's one that's long overdue. I worry about the players having too much say at times, or too much freedom at times, kind of like Bill O'Brien was referring to with the transfer portal. But yeah, the days of it being all the powers in the hands of the schools, those days are long gone now. That's completely done.
Yeah. All right, number 2, the transfer portal may not have regulation for a while. It's a pretty simple fix, but it may just take a while because of all the stuff it took to get it there. But, you have some dates from January 1st to April 1st you can transfer. And from, June 1st to August 1st you can transfer. And that way it's not so ridiculous.
We can do it with signing periods. We can do it with recruiting dates. We can do it with every single thing in college football has some sort of a calendar. I don't know why the transfer portal can't have some type of a calendar. I am not anti-transfer portal. I am not anti-name, image, likeness. I am pro all of these things. But at the same time, I do think that it doesn't have to be just a complete free-for-all either with no regulation whatsoever. I am not in any way trying to hope for a scenario where players get less power. I'm just wanting it to be a little more organized for the sake of programs, coaches. And I know coaches can leave whenever and all that, but look, extend it to them as well. Extend it. I know it's hard to say, well, a coach can't take a job during this date to this date. I don't know how exactly you figure that out, but look, in today's college football, the schools are going to have to give a little back. They're not just going to be able to say, like, well, we're going to expect you guys as players to do this, but our coaches don't have to do that. I think those days are over. So give a little, get a little. And I think, having a set calendar and maybe that even – and I know, like, legally there might not be ways to do this, but I think if you gave a little on the side of the coaches as well to give some insurance to players, that would probably go a long way, for their confidence in the model. So, yeah, I'm all for recruiting. I'm all for a portal calendar. Absolutely.
Yeah. And number 1, the playoff expansion may not come until 2026. What we want, and we all want playoff expansion, save for a few people in the world. But their bottom line is, look, they're not going to agree on it anytime soon. You've got a couple of holdouts from a couple Power 5 conferences, and it's just not going to, you're just not gonna get it fixed here in a couple months. It's going to take some time to get it done, to figure that out, and it may not come until expansion and governance and all those other, conference shuffling and realignment is all done. And that just it sucks that we have to wait that long, but we waited a long time for the playoffs, so it's relatively not that long there.
No, it is what it is. I wouldn't, expect them to have a great plan put together. They should have a plan by now, which they clearly, some have a certain plan and some others have a certain plan, and they just can't get the same plan together. I'm sure they could come to a quick solution on doing something with the playoff, but again, there's just too many voices and too many different interests involved to make it as simple as it probably could be. And I just want to make one, and so I'm fine if we have to wait. At least there's conversation going on, and maybe in the time that it takes to have those conversations, there's a better model that's presented that makes even more sense, and who knows what college football is even going to look like in a couple of years. So we still have grant of rights to get through in the next couple of years. We've got, TV deals to get through in the next couple of years, legislation, name, image, likeness, all that. And I want to make it very clear, like, it probably sounds like there's more complaints than there is positives sometimes with college football in the last year because so much focus is on like the negative aspects of things. But I think college football is in a great position as long as they just, as long as they just make good decisions for the health of the sport. I think they'll be just fine. And there's plenty more positives than there were negatives this season, even with all the different side stories that there were. So it hasn't tainted my love. I know for some people it probably has, some of these things like NIL and all that, but or the playoff. It hasn't mine. I just want the sport to keep getting better. So however that needs to be done, however long that takes in terms of the playoff or whatever other decision they're making, I'm good with that. I'm still going to be around to watch it until they give me a reason not to, and they haven't so far. But I definitely think the sport that I love more than any other could be better and can be better and should be better in some ways. And I just got to get these powerful voices to all realize that as well and not worry so much about their self-interest, but worry about the game itself before they, self-interest this thing to death and really hurt it to where people like myself do become a little bit jaded. I don't think we're there for some people maybe, but I just gotta see what happens and a whole lot of big decisions still to be made. But college football is still great, and I love it, and I'm not going to stop loving it.
All right, Craig, thanks. Great stuff today. We'll be back doing this tomorrow. We'll go over the Big 12 bowl record, which is pretty darn impressive, especially the new Big 12 versus the SEC is another interesting statistic. Thanks to Van McElroy. Great segment. Thanks to Pat Nunley. Thanks to Mike Scarborough. Thanks to John Machoda. Thanks to Armstrong. Thanks to Jack. Thanks to all of you who watched, listened, and did whatever you did today. We're back again remote tomorrow, but everything's fine. We'll be back to normal soon. That's going to do it for us. This is Sick 'em 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Good night.